A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen dictors. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Pop up the cork, have a glass of wine, cause they'll say I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Many.
Clockwork.
That was terrible.
Exactly.
It's still better than what they did in the show, man.
Unlike the witches, we were not synced up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, I should say this. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the passing of Star Wars. Born 1977, died 2024. It was a good ride while it lasted. May it rest in peace.
I'd say died 2012 when Disney
Well, I was gonna
acquired.
say,
I know. I was trying to take the positive view there, and
When
just
you
say
do
it's
the-
definitive now.
when you do like a list, it's like he got married in 2012, died soon after.
What a week it's been. But well, I guess before we talk about this properly, because we've got Star Wars Theory who's about to join us. He was running slightly late, but I'll give him a little bit of time to get into the stream. But before we do that, as is customary on the open bar, we talk a little bit about the year in which this bar takes place.
Oh,
This is Open
99. No, this is a
Open-
good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it was indeed. This is 1999. And, well, in terms of the top movies of that year, Episode 1 of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. That was the top movie of the
Legendary.
year. Yeah, it's quite
Suitable.
appropriate, actually, that we're talking about that today.
Loved by everyone. Loved by everyone
Adored.
immediately.
$430 million domestic. I mean, it's not bad. Not bad. Then it was not so closely followed by The Sixth Sense at $293 million. Then Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I never would have picked as the top, one of the top five of the
Classic.
year, but okay. Then Toy Story 2, and then The Matrix that came in at 5th place. Really should have been above Austin Powers, but oh well, that's
Different genres, you know.
but it was also a year that gave us The Mummy, Fight Club, The Blair Witch Project, The Green Mile, Being John Malkovich, Eyes Wide Shut, American Beauty, and The 13th Warrior.
Jesus.
How could
Remember
you not
we had
mention
good things?
Blue Sea?
I see. Yeah, I did see that, and I thought, it's too awesome for me to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh
Wait,
man,
99 was also Fight Club, right?
yeah, I mentioned.
Yeah,
that.
you mentioned it.
Yeah, it didn't make it wasn't a huge like financial success, but
No, it wasn't. Obviously, the
Resonate.
cultural impact was far above its box office. But
huge.
Didn't Austin Powers only get sequels because of its DVD sales? Like
Uh,
that was one of the key things.
The first movie was 97, so I don't think DVDs even existed back then.
I remember
Maybe just
hearing-
home media in general.
or some sort of home media. Sorry, VHS. Well, either way,
yeah,
it's
yeah, it
home
could have been
media.
in
Yeah, yeah.
rentals and stuff.
Yeah, I remember Gary talking about it. The first one flopped at the box office, I think he said, and the home video got its sequel. And then I assume people went to, or didn't. I mean, looking at the budget to gross worldwide, it's not that bad. 16.5 mil to 70 mil.
Yeah,
you know, but apparently that wasn't good enough, at least at the time, to get a sequel. But the people loved it enough that then I guess they went to see the second one in theaters. How come they never got around to making a fourth one?
I saw it in the theater. I remember watching it, the opening, and everyone laughing at him naked going through the hotel.
Oh yeah, dude. I think the second one's my favorite, but I love the trilogy so much.
I think the second is my favorite too. Yeah, it's just I hurt when you it
dude.
hurts from
the
laughing.
The first one had random task in it which just officially makes it legendary.
I also love Mufasa, the man who can't lie after 3 questions.
Smell a bit like almonds. Yeah.
But I was just gonna say the second one was 33 million budget, 300 million gross worldwide.
Wow,
That bumped
those
up.
are good numbers.
Yeah.
I was kind of looking for major events as well in 1999, and it was mostly technology-based stuff. The Y2K bug became a major concern for corporations all across the world, basically. There were such simple times, like when the date counters on people's computers only had 2 digits in them. Oh, what's going to happen? The world's going to end in the year 2000, and then nothing really happened, and it was a total letdown. I was ready for like Doomsday and everything. It was going to be great, but
2012 were big letdowns.
Yeah, exactly. It was also the year that Napster was launched, which I have very fond memories of. It was Napster and then LimeWire.
I say LimeWire, yeah.
Napster was the very first file sharing service, like, because the internet was kind of nascent at that time, and it's like, oh damn, I can download any song I want for free. Yeah, it's going to take me like 30 or 40 minutes to download each song because I'm on a 56K modem, but who cares? Like, get it for nothing.
And just if of interest, because I didn't know this, but 96 November is when DVD players were invented. But
Yes.
According to Google, they became what would be considered household common by 2001.
Yeah.
So that feels about right.
I think the first thing I got on DVD might have been the Fellowship of the Ring.
Gladiator,
possibly,
and Mission Impossible 2.
Because I was pretty young. I just remember being like, "Whoa, this is space age tech. You can watch films on."
Rewinding was the best.
All those people, back in the day who had laser discs, and it was like a vinyl LP that you had to put in your player.
I had Laserdisc. I still have some Laserdiscs, and my Laserdisc player actually played Sega CD games.
Oh, nice.
I remember those.
Yeah,
so,
I remember the
really
Sega
weird.
CD. Is it true you had to like change discs halfway through movies if they
No,
were quite long?
flip them over. You had to flip them over.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My uncle still says it's superior quality laser discs.
I think
like,
he might be lying
right.
to you.
It's not.
I think he's lying too. It's like people that like vinyl. They're like, no, it's better.
Yeah, or like Betamax. That was the format of choice for the discerning gentleman back in the day. I was just also curious about video games. So apparently, some of the big games of the year were System Shock 2, Silent Hill. That's where it all began. Final Fantasy VIII, it was a bit shit. Unreal Tournament and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So it was an interesting year for video games as well.
'Tis indeed.
But hey ho, that was the year that was 1999. But as I say, we're not here to talk years here. We're here to talk Star Wars.
Before we start, Chris, did you expect this reaction online when you'd seen the episode for the first time?
100%. Yes. When I saw that episode 3, which I watched twice, sadly, I thought this is going to break. This is like Last Jedi. It's going to break fans and lose normies. Normies don't care. They don't care. And hardcore fans like us, or, old school Star Wars fans, just are over it. This is it. They've decided the path they're going, and no one wants to go there. And the whole, just do that character Torben with that god awful hair, and you'll see him in episode 4 as a younger Padawan. He's in that. You'll see in. Well, no, we saw in.
There's
We
another
saw him
one
already. Yeah, he was the bitch
3.
boy who got like completely bullied by the lesbian space witches.
Yeah, bullied into killing himself. But no, we saw in episode 3. Sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah.
I've already seen episode 4. Like he's so weak. When you look at, there's a great. Obviously, I don't have to remind you the scene with Han Solo when he's first in the bar, in the cantina. He's just sitting there, very manly, with his shirt like down to here, chest hair, gruff, manly guy, a scar on the chin from being a carpenter. Or who knows? I'm sure there's.
No, he got that smuggling. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's lore behind the scar, but Harrison Ford and Han Solo is a manly man, and to go now to Torben, who's a weak, twinkish Jedi, is sort of sad.
He didn't even get to have
including-
character.
Well,
What's that?
He didn't even get to have a character.
Not really.
I mean,
But he is
before we
very
go on,
sad. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say as well, welcome Theory
Oh,
to
yes.
the chat.
Welcome,
You
welcome.
You
How you
came
doing?
at just the right time when we were just getting launched into our discussion about
Getting
the
revved
Acolyte episode 3.
We were
And
worried
to be
about
fair,
you.
Chris,
Yeah.
you warned us. You did warn us.
I did warn you.
You
I
said
did warn
like this is going to break the fandom, and it's going to destroy what's left of Star Wars. And you were kind of right. But maybe in some ways it's united the fandom, because I don't see many people defending this. It's almost
They're
united
out
people
there.
in their absolute.
I don't see
contempt for
anyone
this.
defending it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're out there, but they're not getting as many likes as I usually see from accounts that are positive about all of Star Wars. This is getting real difficult to push back on. It's just like, well, you guys hate it because it's like, just don't.
Yeah,
Just-
your excuses do not work on us anymore.
And even the ones that do, because we don't really trust the media. It's not like The Last Jedi where they could just call us the same tactics don't work. It's like, yeah, we're bigots, we're sexist, we're racist. Yeah. Even those people don't like it. Even those, and then see them changing their articles.
That's what
So
I noticed
Theory,
in my
I-
stream.
I
People were
saw
like,
your reaction video to it, and it would appear that you're of like mind on this one, that you didn't get a whole lot of enjoyment out of that. What was your thoughts on episode 3 and what it means for Star Wars as a whole?
I thought it was abhorrent. I literally thought it was. They were just. I don't even think a preschooler could write something so horrible. It just. If you take it out of Star Wars, it doesn't even make sense on its own. Let alone put in the the complications of Star Wars in there. I mean, you have something that you have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm surprised that this got greenlit.
Well, by their own admission, most of the writers in the writers' room hadn't even seen or don't know anything about Star Wars.
Right, my
It
friend
shows.
just messaged me. He said that there were 2 writers besides Leslie on this episode, and one of them never has seen Star Wars.
Sounds about right. And I question Leslie, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. I question her knowledge of Star Wars. Like,
I don't think she has any.
For me,
knowledge.
right?
Yeah.
If I was showrunning and I had a friend who I knew was the best writer in the universe, and I wanted them on this project, let's say it was Star Wars, and they're like, "Dude, I haven't even seen a Star Wars movie," I'd be like, "All right, book a week off. We're gonna watch some Star Wars, buddy.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch
Or
all of
just
Star Wars."
Or just have a person who's a real expert in Star Wars to sense check what you've written. Here's my idea for the story for this episode. Let's get an expert in who can just look at it and say, like, no, that's X, Y, and Z are wrong because they contradict the lore. Fix it by doing this.
don't they have
Easy.
someone that does that? Don't they have someone that's paid to do that?
They probably do have someone paid to do it. Don't know if they do it though.
Well, they probably don't listen to them if that's the case, because, man, I mean, look, there's a whole bunch of things to pull apart with this episode, but I think one of the main sticking points for people is the thread. It's no longer the Force, it's the thread. Because that's how the communist lesbian space witches
Listen.
perceive the Force.
I said this in the EFAP coverage. Look, they're all dead. We don't need to
Right.
listen to their ideas on the bye.
That to me was the least offensive, because the Star Wars galaxy and through all the timelines are filled with backwater planets that don't know anything about the Jedi or the Sith, but they discover the Force and they call it magic, or they call it whatever, or the will, or whatever it is, but it's all the Force. And so they can call it the thread all you want. I didn't hear anything about the thread that binds. Yeah, that's the Force binds us all. So I didn't hear anything she said that contradicted anything. Name it whatever you want. It's still the Force. Her doing the purple line there, to me, is no different than Dathomir Night Sisters doing whatever their source. It's still the Force, but it's green. I don't know how it works, but it's the Force.
Well, yeah, and a
That's
lot of-
how I
I was-
explain
I
that
was
way.
confused as well about her perception of, this is not a weapon to be wielded by
I know.
people.
I know.
And then
Didn't
literally
use
the
it.
next thing she does is uses it as a weapon to knock people over.
Dude,
Yeah.
she was filled with banger lines throughout this whole episode. Several of them were like they're very much invested in just the concept of lying that they tell their children. The whole like, you children can't make decisions for yourselves unless, of course, you make it in a way that I like.
Well,
All these like constant contradictions. I assume part of the point they want to make is that this culture was somewhat flawed, but I was like, do they realize how flawed they've made them to the point where I think it's on the Jedi somewhat to rescue people from this cult.
If one is inclined towards allegory for contemporary issues, there's one point where one of the mothers, I can't remember what her name is, but the
Coral.
Ayahuasca.
Anastasia.
Anastasia.
No,
that's
it's
the one.
Corals. This is where she says they're
Whatever.
just children, and then Mother
No.
Anastasia.
It's when she's
God, 'cause
talking.
that's
It's
bad
when she's
too.
talking to both of the twins, and she says,
Mother Anastasia.
you might feel like you're different and that you want to go down this different path, but people go through phases in life and they grow out of them.
Oh my
And I
god.
thought, ooh, are you trying to have that conversation here? You know, it's like, well,
Yeah,
coming
surprise.
from
It's funny when you
a
take it
gay
within the
showrunner, it's like that's an interesting one to go down.
But when you take it within the context, right, appreciating this young mind and what she may or may not want, and she expresses herself definitively several times, that the mom is like, "You're probably wrong." It's like, okay, why the fuck
Yeah.
did you ask me, bitch? I just-
We
Well,
never
it's like
hear.
the show simultaneously wants you to empathize with this coven of witches and see them as the moral superiors of the Jedi, because the Jedi are there to take their children away from them. But everything they do is the exact opposite of that. They are a repressive cult that stifles free thought, doesn't allow anyone to leave, and essentially prevents anyone from thinking outside of the prescribed doctrine.
Yeah.
They're
they're
not
using the
good
dark
people.
side. They're using the dark side. They use it right in front of them, even though they don't call it the dark side because they don't think there's a light or the dark.
I assume that's what
there
they're
is.
going for, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why they were able to create the two twins using dark side.
Which
Allegedly.
is such bullshit.
See, I
Yeah,
can
no.
explain away a lot. And remember, they hired an intimacy coordinator for this show, which means something to do with nudity. Yes, they did. You didn't know about this? They hired an intimacy
That was
coordinator.
for the scene where what was in Charlie Barnett had his shirt off.
What?
That was specifically
Stop
for
it.
that
But he's not
scene.
intimate
I'm
with
not
anyone.
joking.
That was what that was for?
Yes.
Oh, well, that
Lord,
blows my
or
theory out of the
whatever.
wall. I thought we were going to see
He had his
lesbian
shirt
birth. Well,
off.
good. I don't want, see, that's what I'm saying. I don't want, all we have is the inference. If we actually see her, either the creation or the, you know what I'm saying? That's what would really break. Right now, it's just a word of a crazy commie force witch on a planet somewhere.
Well,
where
it's
did
what
they
I
come
said
from?
at the end. They all died, and that we don't have to believe anything they said. They're gone. We don't have to see them again.
Yeah.
I'd like to know
Well,
what they
you
died
never
from.
know.
Was it like shame
probably
or,
won't be
or
back.
boredom or
Well-
what? Like they're just all in a pile dead.
Well, so this is the thing, right? When I was watching the episode, and I've seen a couple people's coverage at this point, a lot of people assume this is the only flashback episode. Chris, you've seen episode 4. I assume that's back to the present.
Back to the present. Yeah, there's
So,
no flashback in that.
something-
And
I think there's going to be more flashbacks that are going to
something
put
you'll
this into
note-
more
Yeah.
context.
Is that episode 1 is called Lost Found, episode 2 is called Revenge Justice, episode 3 is called Destiny. There's no double up, meaning we saw Osha's version of history / her POV. I think in episode 6, probably, we're going to get May's version, May's POV.
I think
And she's-
Indara sent her someone to do something. I think Indara sent her Padawan to hack their power thing. And so two things at the same time. And so they can each blame the other one.
We're going to get a whole explanation of what
Maybe.
happened. They've dropped
Yeah, 'cause
plenty of
May
clues.
makes a comment to fucking whatever the female Jedi is called, that Jedi do draw their weapons,
Yes.
not just to defend themselves, but in attack, implying that the Jedi actually massacred all of the witches.
Well,
or
I
for a
think
flashlight, if you need a flashlight.
if you need a flashlight,
Exactly, yeah.
I think
That makes
we're all
sense.
we're all aware of the quality of this to the point where it'll be they stumble upon knowing they created someone in the Force. They'll be like, that's a dark power, that's a perversion, and then someone does something. Someone yells at them, someone steps on someone's toes, and then they all just end up fighting, and the Jedi wipe them out. And then
they had
they
a green
say,
light
like-
to do that when the Padawan got taken over in their first meeting. Like,
It's- There's not going to be an interesting resolution to this, because if May sabotaged the engine, whatever the fuck, in order to prevent Osha leaving, and then they interpret that as the Jedi did it, and then they attack the Jedi and the Jedi kill them, that could be another way they do this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at anything. The end result, of course, is the Jedi came to a culture, and now the culture's dead. And that's what we're supposed to take away. And the Jedi have obviously scrubbed the records because they don't want people knowing that that's how badly that mission went.
they
And if instead
definitely leave
blame
her
May-
out. They leave May out. Yeah. Of the
we're
records.
going to get the moment where May is confronted by Osha as adults, and she'll be like, "Can't believe you destroyed everything, my beloved parent. It was all your fault." And she'll be like, "That's what the Jedi told you. They lied to you. They didn't tell you the truth." And then we'll get our May side of it. It's going to be incredibly predictable, incredibly lame.
Well,
And then
sure
we'll
Cole
find-
is still alive.
We'll find out who Smiler Ren is, and no one's going to give a fuck.
It's Cole.
I know,
She can say,
I-
I am your mother. Am I wrong?
It's an I am your mother. It's
Thank
so
you.
it's so
It
obvious.
has to be. They're too
Smilo Ren
hacky to not do it.
Smilo Ren is in female form. Looks very shapely like a woman. But
Well,
can
there is-
anyone answer?
Well, it's got to be a woman, because every
It's a
major
woman.
character in this is a
It's-
woman.
one or two of the mothers.
They
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
resist
Twins
the I
have
am your
to-
mother line.
You can't rule
Unite
out
to bring-
the potion seller, man. He's
No,
a
I just
potential.
there's nothing more. That's the most dramatic and obvious. But why did Osha want to be a Jedi? He just says it. You don't see what is her reason. I want to be a Jedi. Those two actors, those twin girls, were terrible.
planks.
But to be fair, like this is all about breaking barriers, and it's the first time because May wants to kill Osha. It's the first time we've seen black on black violence in Star Wars. So this is something that it's groundbreaking.
Well, someone pointed out, like, as well,
Statistics.
the
That
one
was
time you
supposed to
see
be
a
a
black
joke,
child
I
on
don't know.
screen, they still
They
don't
don't
have
like
a
Star
father.
Wars FBI space statistic jokes here. Sorry, I made one too. It's all right, Chris. We'll try another one.
It's all good. The chat hates me now.
They don't like those jokes. Yeah.
I was on Gundam stream last night, and I was theorizing that one thing that might have been slightly interesting is if they did like what they did in Us, where you think that the good twin is the one who escaped and the evil one is the one who's out for revenge, but it's actually flipped. And
Well, at
May
that
is
point-
the one who escaped, and Osha is the one who's out for revenge.
Why would they get two different child actresses, which we're not attacking, so you don't have to, we're so mean to them, we're talking about them, but why would they hire two separate ones instead of just having one of them play both characters like they do with Amanda?
It's easier,
It's
isn't it?
cheaper.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't have
Much
to.
cheaper.
You don't have to.
Well, so what
pull
did
it up.
Torben do? Because he had some massive levels of guilt. Like,
That's
the guy
why I
just-
think
we will
Master
get
and
that
Dara
later.
had him go and slice into their power things, which would have just disabled it, but at the same time made the fire thing. So fire plus so he takes all the blame, and that's why he's boo boo bee boo. And I don't know about the scar. Maybe it's in the explosion or something.
It's just gonna be a big fight.
What about those bricks combusting into flame?
Yeah, it's hard.
I don't understand what
Those-
fire is in this
I've-
universe, but it's like it can
Yeah.
burn in space and it can set fire to stone fortresses.
And you're not
I've
allowed
seen
to
people-
criticize it.
I've seen people theorizing that May will have been mind controlled to do what she does in the episode, because you have to understand, it's so awful that the people who still like this have to find a way around it. They're desperate. I think
Well, the
actually it was
headcanon must be mind-boggling.
it was
at this point.
Movie Bob who put out a tweet saying the job of the nerd is to try and make sense of it all no matter what, or something like that.
Wow.
Just another reason why Movie Bob can fuck right off.
I
just
can't
like-
make
The
sense.
job
some
of the
this.
storyteller is to make sense of their own story.
Well, it's enough is enough. We have like a fucking semi-annual visit to the funeral for Star Wars. It's getting absurd. Like,
I mean,
why?
why can it die? Yeah.
It's and that's the thing. I think someone would be like, "Well, what are you suggesting?" Then it's just like, "Oh, just suggesting that I feel like everyone should be more honest about this. Why are we still pretending this is a franchise you can benefit from by strictly praising it?" And that's what I mean, strictly non-genuinely. And this
So-
applies. You could go the other side of it as well. But like, so many people, like, still peddling. I was quote tweeting someone today. It was Grace Randolph, right? She was like, "This hatred the actors are getting for being a part of Star Wars." It's like, oh, come on. This
Are
isn't.
they?
I
It's
don't
not-
think so.
I don't see
No one
anybody.
hates the
directing
actors.
it
No
as
one's hating
actors.
Squid Game guy for being in this. It's like, yeah, you're in a shit show, but like no one hates you. We
No,
still like
no.
you.
No, I think I've gone as far as complimenting him in this show. I think he's one of the closest ones that's dragging people into liking his character through the performance.
He has
Oh, the
gravitas, and like by all accounts, he learned English specifically for this role, which fucking hell, that deserves respect, if nothing else. Yeah, I mean, no problem with him. So it's just like, yeah, fucking Grace Randolph being the malfunctioning, retarded AI that she is, just parrots whatever talking points are fed to her by like Disney or whatever studio wants her to say these
Well,
things. I'm not convinced that she's an actual functioning human being at this point.
There was an account that was like, the Acolyte is so good that anyone hating this has definitely got like some deep-seated issues, right? And it had, I think, 2K. And one of the top responses that I thought was really funny was like, have you liked all of Star Wars up to now? All of it.
Yeah.
Because if you have, it just feels like you don't have a discerning taste of any kind. Not necessarily the best or worst taste, just any taste. You just,
Right.
you just sort of like, what Star Wars it with?
You made a very valid point when you were reviewing Fallout, right? And you'd finished picking apart all the problems with it, and you just made a very simple statement of expect better. And I thought that was just the perfect distillation, I guess, of the complaint here as well. Like, just expect a bit more than this slop that you're dished up. because they are capable of it. We know
It
from
became a
VOT
review.
that Star Wars can be really good stuff. It could tell amazing stories that resonate across generations. It can be done, and it's not impossible now just because you're following in the footsteps of something great. You can still build upon that. You're not exerting yourselves. You're not trying hard enough. Either you lack the skill or you lack the motivation to tell a better story. I think in the case of the Acolyte, the people behind it lack the motivation for storytelling, but they certainly have the motivation for activism. That's the driving force behind what they've done with this.
Well, on that, I happen to have some industry friends who've told me that Marvel realizes they've screwed up, and they recently fired about 15 producers, all who were activists. Unfortunately, Lucasfilm is going to double down. They don't care, and you see what the future of Star Wars is. We witnessed it. But Marvel is going to pivot hard, but it'll take a couple years to see it. And they're trying to find a way to dump Ironheart. They're
Skate quickly over thin ice,
Just-
like
no,
Echo.
Batgirl it.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the best way to do it.
Contractually, and I guess there's one thing that happens in the series. Sacha Baron Cohen plays a pivotal character that is involved in future stuff, so kind of have to set him up. But Marvel is going to change. They brought in Terry Matalas, so who did Picard season 3. So we'll see. But yeah, I think Lucasfilm is committed to this new direction. The Force is female, and I put the oh fuck, I'll try to find a different link. It's a
it's behind a paywall.
Yeah, it's a whole article about how Star Wars fans are male. I put out a I don't think it's controversial tweet saying the majority of Star Wars fans are. It's a boys brand. It's simply a boys brand in the same way that Barbie is a girls brand. That doesn't mean young boys can't like Barbie, and it doesn't mean women and young girls can't like Star Wars. It's primarily for boys.
Yes.
And I feel that, like I've said this before, like if Star Wars Theory and I started a company, we wanted to start a company, a women's cosmetic brand. We would suck at it. We would be terrible. And we would be.
I believe in you guys. You can do it.
I believe in you.
A primarily female team heading up Star Wars. This is what you get. You get the Acolyte. I
You were
feel
one
like
of the
Star
first.
Wars-
Made sense. You were right.
I mean, look,
male energy, because the one thing that's also missing, a simple thing, I'll quote Paul Chato. One of the cool things about Star Wars, it had gear porn. What is gear porn? Weapons and
spaceships.
The Falcon was a hot rod, and like in Empire, Han Solo is working on it. Like anyone here work on cars or motorcycles? Like I have. I used to own a Triumph. I love that bike. You know, they're not really reliable, but that's another story. But you have to carry tools. You working with that kind of stuff. Gear porn, men understand it. For the most part, women do not. You need at least a balance, right? And with this, it's so much like you're I saw your episode 3 video, Drinker. That opening montage, I was dying with the mix of
The
like
screaming feminists.
And then the scenes. It was amazing. That's right there, right in front of you. That made the point very well. So
That's the energy they were going for in that scene, and I think that's the problem. Like someone like Leslie Headland genuinely thinks that that's moving, emotive, artistic cinema right there. That all the wailing and the power of many, you know, and just like seeing all these women empowered by like screaming at each other.
Dude, that was such shit.
Yeah, exactly.
She knew it would piss us off, though.
It's like a 12-year-old fan fiction writer's idea of something that's deep and meaningful.
I don't even think so. That's the thing, is I think someone like I don't even think a 12-year-old would write something like that. I mean, you have the Night Sisters from Dathomir. They look cool when they chant. They look cool when they're doing all their shit. I don't know what the hell this was. It was just weird. Like I felt like I was in some like yoga session for like above 40s, something like that. I don't know. Like it just didn't make any sense to me. It was like, and then the whole explanation of, well, you know what's actually kind of confusing was when she pulls on the thread and makes an actual visual thread. No Jedi can do that.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
Jedi that makes a visual.
I feel like a Jedi could, but why would a Jedi ever do a visual manifestation using the Force? Like you could just distort the particles in the air and make it look like a line, but like magic is the Force. It's just another word for it's all the Force.
I don't think magic is the Force. I think magic is completely different. That's why Palpatine was so afraid of Mother Talzin.
Yeah, at least in Legends it wasn't, and then they changed it, and now Filoni might say that magic is this new thing, but magic was always the Force. Magic was always the Force. It was just another word for the Force.
I mean, like, call me a Philistine if you want. I just liked when things were simple when it came to the Force. It's like, you know, it's a fairly like vague concept of just like an energy that flows through all living things. It's like, okay, I can get that. Like that's fine. And if you're very attuned to it and you discipline your mind, then you can manipulate it to a degree where you can pick up objects and pull them towards you, that sort of thing. If you're more powerful, you can lift a heavier object. And then, holy shit, man, when you get a guy like Palpatine, who's super powerful with it, with the dark side of the Force, he can like fire bolts of lightning from his hands. Like, damn, man, that's like next level stuff.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the extent that you need with the Force. Now it's just like it's an all-encompassing anything. Whatever the screenwriter needs it to do, it can do. And it's too much. It's too much convoluted bullshit. It's too flexible. It's too nondescript. It just does everything and anything. Well, according to The Rise of Skywalker, it can heal deadly wounds. It can just like fucking straight up bring people back from being dead. Like, wow, that's impressive.
The issue is there's no tier system anymore. So it's like Rey can heal people, whereas Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan couldn't. You know, you have these witches creating children from the Force when Plagueis, Palpatine, Anakin, the Empire, Kaminoans couldn't do that. I mean, the whole premise of the Force Unleashed games is that they had to try freaking 10,000 times to clone Starkiller, and they got it wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess we'll both do it. I'll be as quick as I can. The introduction of the essentially mind reading is so distinct that now I'm starting to wonder, like, hang on, why didn't Anakin and Obi-Wan use that on Zam when they caught her? Just grab her thoughts out of her head instead of waiting for her to say something.
What I'm saying.
It opens up so many possibilities, the ability to read someone's mind and like find all the information that they know.
This was something that Palpatine could do. This is something Palpatine could do to Luke. And just by sensing his thoughts. But now like every medium tier Jedi can do this in the High Republic. Huh?
The degree to which they can do it is the problem. It should be only some were really good, and same with healing. That used to be something on very small wounds and or long time meditation, not an open hole in the chest.
No. The other thing I wanted to point out as well, like there's when we talked about Anakin there, like he was unique in the sense that he was the only one that we know of that was created through the use of the Force.
Yeah,
like no other character has ever had that. There's a pattern here, right? With whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars, of taking something that used to be unique to one specific male character, whether it's Captain Kirk, he was the first like character that we had that was like venturing out into space, or the Doctor, which was played, the very first one was played by William Hartnell, a white guy, to going back and retconning the history of these franchises so that actually a strong, diverse woman actually did it before them, and we just didn't know about it at the time. Star Trek's done it with Michael Burnham. Doctor Who's done it with the Timeless Children, and now we've got it here with Star Wars with Episode 3 of the Acolyte. And I just think it's such a consistent pattern. There has got to be intent behind this. They think they're so smart by doing it, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm starting to notice this pattern occurring.
They think they're very smart.
Yeah.
and the thing about the female directors or whatever is, you know, we've had a few good ones. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, I think when she was writing Jon Favreau's story, like, she did a fine job directing things. But Leslie Headland, I don't think has a freaking clue what Star Wars even is, let alone to go ahead and direct and create an entire show before The Phantom Menace. And the whole fact that they released the Phantom Menace in theaters and put a trailer for the Acolyte as like, hey, this connects to that. Are you? No, it doesn't. At all.
I mean, well,
what-
you're forgetting theory.
So now people are
This-
saying Plagueis got the idea of creating life
God.
from the
Of
witches.
course.
No.
Oh no!
This is it. This is how it does. This
Could
is how
you
they
imagine
do it. They
if that's what they're gonna
insidiously
do?
work
Yeah.
all this stuff into the lore. It's like tendrils just spreading out.
Yeah,
It's
I've
a
seen
way
some
to-
people defend that. I'm like, no.
This is what I mean.
that's
At this
not-
point, how could they not expect the next fucking film from someone who gets put in to actually fix all this shit to just say it was all a dream? Fuck you, new film. Because like, why if you're gonna fuck with it this much, just
The new film is the Rey film, rumored a new beginning where the thread female, whatever. Enjoy your new Jedi Order that's all female, I guess, with Rey. That will be.
I
the
mean, I'm
future.
just like, if this is anything to go by, an episode of a TV show. Imagine what the internet response is going to be to a Rey-centric movie.
Yeah,
Charmin
just
Obey
watch.
Chinoy.
It's gonna be interesting. Oh, I think Charmin hates men more than Leslie Headland does.
oh,
I-
cool.
she is an activist. I get a lot of her comments were in the context of making the men that do horrible things to women uncomfortable with your documentaries, but she
Yeah.
also sort of said it again in the
100%.
same context
100%.
with Star Wars fans. And so, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think she would do anything that would be kind towards us.
Yeah, well, look, after working for Harvey Weinstein, I can imagine why you hate men, but we're not all like that.
This is the thing, and well, I guess with Leslie Headland as well. Like, I have to wonder what the intent is towards not just Star Wars fans, but like things like the staples of the genre. Like, she's already tried to rewrite what the Force is. There's this attempt to recontextualize the Jedi as well as being this actually malicious, narcissistic force within the galaxy that actually deserves to be condemned. And it's only come about under Disney. And I just wonder how much more of that we're going to see in this show, because they're already leaning into it pretty hard.
Well, I mean, we should all go around and say what's our favorite Leslie Headland project before this one.
That could take a while.
Exactly.
There's
Why are
something-
they hiring such inexperienced people? Like what from her previous work made you think she's the perfect person to give $180 million to make a show? Or the woman that's doing-
Because Chris,
Rey
Star
movie.
Wars literally saved her life, don't you know?
I mean,
She's on record
most-
as saying
right,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Most of the directors from Marvel, right, were a lot of people that cut their teeth on little indie movies that had something. If you saw James Gunn's Super, it's a really good little indie movie that has heart, it's very much like his films after, it's this little movie with Rainn Wilson. Has anyone seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's actually really good. It
It's
takes
good.
such a fucking swerve, like I
Right.
don't know, probably like towards the end
Right. It's a
with
little-
Ellen Page.
it's weird.
Holy
No,
shit! I
I
did not
think
see
it's
that
great.
coming.
I think it's great, but it takes risks, but nothing from any of the talent that's being hired shows me that there's any hope at all. In fact, they're finding people that just want the job. And Leslie admitted, was it you, Theory, that played that video or that audio where Leslie Headland just says she BS'd her way into this job? That's half the industry.
No,
There
I
are
didn't. I want to
people-
see this. Where's
Yeah,
that?
have you
Well,
it's around.
there's one that you
Did you
sent
play
me,
the one I
Theory,
sent you?
that I've got here about like her inspiration for this. I could probably play that actually just now if you want to hear
Yeah.
it.
Didn't she
Ah,
say
here
she
we
just
go.
sent an email to Lucasfilm and
Well,
they responded
yeah.
to her?
Just
let's see
to
what-
add to what Chris was saying quick, because obviously he's still, even James Gunn had more history than a lot of people do, being the Scooby-Doo movies and Dawn of the Dead writing
Right.
for him, right? So like there's before anyone flips it, the Scooby-Doo movies actually have a lot of like fun in them. You can see how someone could translate that into something else. But I was just going to say the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 5, where you had directors like selected like John to begin the MCU, Jon Favreau, Kenneth Branagh, Louis Leterrier, I think it was, Joe Johnson, and obviously Joss Whedon. All of these people who had fucking huge, or at least somewhat vary from smaller but to huge careers. And nowadays it's more so just, That about sums it up. Gary said it again and again, and it's hard not to agree with it completely. Their cast.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know what's even worse? They're thrown to the wolves somewhat. They don't know what they're getting into. They're like, oh, this is awesome. I get to direct something with like a huge budget. Do you remember? I think it was David F. Sandberg, right? He went from Lights Out as a short film on YouTube to being able to make Lights Out the movie, to then getting Shazam, which was pretty well received, and then Shazam 2, which was a huge flop. And I can't remember, there's comments of him just being like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, this is such a weird career trajectory of what just happened. It's like, best of luck, of course, because now your name gets associated, of course, with like a failure, a big budget one.
If you have a big high profile failure early in your career, that's it. You're in movie jail, and you're probably not going to get out.
Well, let's see. Alternatively, you have fucking like writers like Michael Waldron who get attached to Multiverse of Madness, which I thought was a complete disaster, and he's going to get brought on to write for Avengers. You know, because it's like, well, Multiverse of Madness made money where many others hadn't, and so it's like, so that guy must know what he's doing. It's like, no,
They fail up and laterally. No one ever gets fired. And cast. And shout out to Chris Gore and Alan Ing for all those series about Disney and all the inside, all the people coming out. Like, it's all the good people got pushed out. Me Too was weaponized, pushed out, and they brought in literally people from Tumblr.
Yeah, well, they're all
they brought in Leslie here, and let's hear what she has to say about this, because it's fascinating insight into her psychology with this one.
Frozen as a grown-ass woman. I cried through the entire movie. There was just something about the concept of true love being between two sisters and not a heterosexual relationship. Like, it just destroyed me completely. And I thought, gosh, I would love to make something like this that is Disney, meaning it's something that like my parents would have allowed me to see when I was younger as a queer person.
Gotcha.
But I would have been able to understand as a queer person, and I think I would have had a completely different life. And so when I was developing this original idea to pitch to Kathleen, I thought, well, it can't just be that, when you're pitching Star Wars, you have to pull from what, George was also interested in. Like, it can't just be like, well, I'm referencing, especially if you're going to set something, during the High Republic or end of High Republic into prequels, you don't have the Skywalker saga.
Hi, excuse me, I'm having.
So, that was essentially her thoughts on The Acolyte. Basically, she really enjoyed Frozen because she has like some deep-seated conflict with her own sister, I guess. Cried all the way through it, and then just wanted to replicate that dynamic in her own TV show. So she just straight up stole it, as far as I could understand.
And to that end,
the Star Wars show.
Literally, yeah.
The twins are very much coded as a toxic lesbian relationship, where one just wants her own life, she wants to go out and do things, and the other one wants it to be all about them, to the point of like, no, you have to tell me everything, and we're literally the same person. And if you don't do that, it's insane.
I do like the one who's so into individuality, and yet she still kept the same exact hairstyle as her twin, like for the remainder of her life. Like, wouldn't you do something to try and differentiate yourself from her? I don't know.
Keeps her roots.
I thought the other one wanted to play softball.
She just wanted to be part of the lesbian.
It's funny
communist cult,
that she talks about how she wants to respect what George made, but then in that other clip that I showed last week, she talks about how people shouldn't give a shit about George in the room, and they should focus on this guy who's hiring Ralph McQuarrie. Like, that's the misogyny. That's the Ator myth of whatever else.
She's the one that said George doesn't know. You saw it because your reaction was the best of all. That she's the one that says that George wasn't the end all of Star Wars, that he didn't know everything.
Yeah.
Do you ever get the impression that she just says whatever seems appropriate at the time, and she doesn't actually believe anything?
Yes, all celebrities do that. When they're in front of those pandering journalists, that's what they do. They say what needs to be said to keep working, which is towing certain lines. So into queerness and all that. That's going to get her hired, by the way. I have friends that work in the industry. I'm talking about below the line jobs, right? Like on a film set that are being asked to fill out surveys about what their gender identity is and how they identify. They just put queer so they can keep working. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
This is how it's gotten to.
No, I believe it. I said in my breakdown, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just turn gay, and then people will take my criticisms a little more seriously.
The numbers of queer were skyrocketing. I
identify as every gender and no gender simultaneously.
People don't want to get fired.
No one's going to say anything. Be like, oh, okay, that's valid.
We're all gay.
Okay.
We're all
Yeah.
gay talking
Yeah.
about Star. 5 gay guys
Yep.
talking
Yeah.
about Star Wars right now.
I'm
Yeah.
all right with that. You have real nice
Exactly.
hair, Chris. That's a nice beard. You look beautiful on you. Yeah, no, this is not getting any better. They know exactly what they're doing. And the insidious thing is that might actually be their plan, really, to just get rid of all of us and think they can rebuild it with. And I think they said it on Geeks and Gamers in the morning. Like, look at the people that the Star Wars official account replies to on Twitter, and look at who they don't or block. It's a very targeted group.
I said this myself. Like, I could draw a lot of parallels between where Star Wars is at now and where Doctor Who is at as a franchise. It's that feeling of the game is almost up. We're running out of time, running out of money, and it's just like we're into pure fuck you mode now. We know you don't like what we're making, and we just say fuck you. We're just going to put everything in that we want to put in. All the socio-political messaging, all of our own personal hang-ups, all of our own personal politics, all of it. It's just going to get rammed down your throat because we know we're in the last chance saloon right now. So why not? Why not just throw all this shit at a wall and see what sticks? And Doctor Who's exactly the same way.
That sentiment about George Lucas, by the way, I feel like KK, Ryan, and JJ have all said it. Like that George comes first, that his vision's so important to us that we would never.
Right. Yeah.
And like, it's almost like if ever I hear that, I'm like, oh, so you're lying to me. This is what we're doing away. Like,
Yeah.
it does feel like something they were told to say because it has a positive effect. People like to hear that.
Absolutely. I remember when I was at Celebration in 2019, and I saw Kathleen on stage with JJ, and she's like, guys, like just lying through it. Guys, you don't know how much this movie means to him. Guys, you have no idea. And everyone's just clapping and cheering, and I'm like, wow, that didn't sound sincere at all.
He loves it. Then he went out and called them white slavers. And I know there you talk to people that probably hear is real. That's like, yeah, I'm sure he's not fond of the things they've done.
Yeah, I talked to his friends.
Why would he be?
Yeah.
I
No,
know
she
what
lied
goes
from
on.
the start. She never respected any of
No.
it from the start. Yeah.
I wonder if there is an element of like just personal score settling going on here, where it's like I'm going to not only redefine how people perceive the Jedi, how people perceive heroes like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia. I'm going to redefine what the Force is. I'm just going to change the entire face of Star Wars in the public perception, and I'm going to remold it in my image.
But here's the argument: it's world building. Star Wars is huge. We're just expanding on it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're changing a lot of shit. MauLer, I want to ask you specifically, what did you think of the whole doing what Plagueis could never do? They literally manipulated the Force, pulling a thread and creating 2 Force-sensitive
It's
children.
off limits. You can't touch that. The history is so complicated. I mean, we discussed it back on Stargriff, the several episodes of Bad Batch. We are still creating stories out of the notion of cloning Force-ready like entities. You can't just establish 100 years before Revenge of the Sith, right? Like that's the what they're going for in terms of timeline.
Before the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
so
they
like
cracked it, and it didn't even look like it was that difficult. Like they just sort of announced that that's something they did, and it's like that's just absurd. You can't have that. Get away.
The power of one, the power of many.
It breaks a lot of things.
Just from a purely like production perception point of view, right? When they were doing that scene that you just said there, the power of one, the power of many, did nobody put their hand up and just say, look, this could come across as just ever so slightly cringe. Maybe we need to rethink how we do this one.
Yeah.
Because man, if you subtract all the other stuff from it, like the defiling of the lore, the complete rewriting of the mechanics of Star Wars and the Force and all that stuff, something like that, just from a purely aesthetic point of view, it's hard going. It's
major
hard to
cringe,
watch.
dude. I was watching it with a friend of mine, and she was just like, "What the is this? Like, what? Who wrote off? Like, who signed off on this?" Another question I got for you guys is in regards to I'm drawing a blank. Oh,
it's all right. Someone pointed out we've got 23,000 people watching us right now, so we've set some kind of record for the open bar right here.
Is that actually a good place to start up a conversation that we were having just before the stream started, Drinker? And I'd love to start with theory on this. What do you think about the notion that Star Wars is gradually starting to build a fandom that's essentially antimatter through the content now? That people are very engaged in discussing very honestly and brutally how much is getting damaged, destroyed, and needs to be stopped. Like, it almost feels unprecedented to me in media.
What do you
Marvel
mean?
and Doctor Who might have a bit of competition in this running.
Like
So
backlash.
they are
Antimatter.
building a group of fans, or rather people who are very invested in the nature of how bad the content is, as opposed to how much fun it is. The story of how they're destroying it in a meta level. And that the stories themselves being told in these TV shows are more so chapters in a book of how they're damaging everything. And that there, I think, is a unification over wanting to stop it, not wanting this to continue. I don't know if your perception of Star Wars has changed from Acolyte, like before and after, but I will say, like, because I've watched your reactions, you haven't seemed very happy as of late.
No, but I mean that's in general with Disney Star Wars is that I just try to find the best in it. But with this, there is no best. With this, it's just shit, and I have to be real about it. So it's I tried to do that with every single Disney Star Wars project that came out, and I tried to essentially do damage control from my own mind as a fan and be like, okay, well, this is how this makes sense,
Yeah.
and this is how that makes sense, and stay within the universe of it when I know that it's this is not how George would have written it, but I'm trying to make the best of it. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, this is a joke. This is not even in the confines of the world that George created. So it's yeah.
It just feels to me there is a culture forming in the same way that there would be for a show that or a series of movies that's doing really well, where fans love to discuss it and make fan art that relates to it, have shorthand that's within the universe, but that this is the equal and opposite, of which there tends to be that for everything. And it feels like this is the first time we've seen a proper look at it to this degree. People are fiery and engaged to talk about how much Star Wars should not be in the position it's in, which is unusual, right?
Yeah.
Usually they leave. A lot of fans
Yeah.
do. But if it was going to
Not
happen to an
apathetic.
IP, if it was going to happen to any IP, it probably would be one of the biggest, if not the biggest of all time in media.
Yeah. No, I know it's well because they're taking something that people love so much and so dearly, and they're now destroying it. And so people, they still have that tendril, they still have that thread of connection of love for it.
Well-
But now you're protecting your something that's so important to you by instead of leaving, you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
So how do you
I
feel about
guess in
Filoni,
some
though?
ways that's a positive in a weird way that people do still care enough to be angry about it.
Well,
I
yeah.
think there's positives to be drawn out of this. There's a clear. It always comes back to a love of Star Wars. I think that motivates a lot of us on this. And I think there's a parallel to when this happened before with Game of Thrones season 8. There was huge communities based on discussing how much they destroyed things they loved, and it was like it made everyone feel a bit better about it all because they weren't alone, and
It
that
does.
they could sort of fanfic together. They could be like, they could have done this, could have done that. Maybe they will do this in future. Maybe we should compel them. Blah blah. House of the Dragon is what people like to think of as a sort of healing. Star Wars is not healing. Like, it's not at all.
No. But what this episode did, and I saw in my live stream, was that so many people were like, I thought the first 2 episodes were great. This I can't get behind. This was absolutely just garbage. And it's literally bringing people together. Being like, I can't defend this. There's so many, I can't defend this. There's nothing I can say. This
But that's
this
what I
is
got to
not
ask. Why do you think Dave let this happen? Why didn't he go, wait, I look, I'm progressive, blah, blah, blah. We cannot have anyone else have immaculate conception before Anakin. Even in the Plagueis novel, it's inferred that that's mucking around with that is exactly what might have started the Force to go back with it. Why did he allow this?
Dave is a lesbian.
My
I think
answer to
that's
that
the
is
answer
I know
to
the
that.
answer. I just want theories.
Probably Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know. There's always a command tier, and with I think Dave at this point just kind of. I'm sure you guys disagree, but I think he knows when to shut his mouth around Kathleen and around Disney. I think he has ideas of things he wants to do, but he's like, okay, I'm just not going to say anything.
He knows how to play the corporate game and stay
I
employed.
He knows how to survive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wonder what the perception amongst these people will be to like the degree of backlash that we've seen against the Acolyte. Because I think in some way they knew it was going to happen. I think they knew people were probably primed to dislike this show. There wasn't a whole lot to to rally behind in terms of like the Star Wars lore and respecting the canon, all that sort of thing. But the actual reaction has been so much more intense than I think any of us would have anticipated. Like, to put it in context,
Yeah.
like a few hours ago I put out a review of episode 3. It's already hit 1 million views. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's not because what I've made is particularly amazing. It's just there's so much antagonism now towards this show. As MauLer said, there's a kind of anti-fandom that has grown up now around this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what once something like that takes hold in your brand, I just don't know how you get past it. And I just wonder, like, will there be a recognition from them? Will they realize like how much people dislike what they're creating now?
They realize, but they just say we're sexist or racist or homophobic.
Well,
that's what it is. And then they think if they make actual good Star Wars, then they are too racist, sexist, and homophobic and non-inclusive, when it has absolutely nothing to do with any of that.
Out of curiosity, all of us, just give your perspective in the form of a number. How many, and when I say great, I mean great movies, do you think it would take for them to release in the Star Wars canon to get fans back on board?
4.
3.
I think 3.
I'd say a banger trilogy. A banger trilogy. And we would wait until the end of the third one to make sure that they didn't ruin it. But I just want to say, Dave is the creative director.
Let me say this. 3 and an apology.
Yeah, 3 and an apology.
I say 4. And like, for any studio to release 3 movies, essentially under pain of like penance, I suppose, to almost acknowledge like they might not make any money, but they're just part of our apology tour. That's more than any studio is going to be capable of delivering.
That's a write-off.
I think one good movie, but it's not enough, and they're not capable of doing it.
That part.
They're not able to do it. That's the thing. We're never going to get it. It's a dead brand. It's a zombie brand that I found an archive link to about that story about men.
Well, this is actually a very interesting thing.
Look at the chart. It compares. There are more female Marvel fans than Star Wars fans. It kind of chart. If you look at the little chart they created.
Yeah,
anyways,
so they've got like a distribution graph here of the various Star Wars movies plotted against the Marvel movies, and it's weird. Like the Marvel movies plot kind of in the middle between men and women, so there's quite a decent distribution. But then Star Wars plots way to the right, so like it skews much more in favor of men.
That's what Bob
Star
Iger
Wars
said
is
himself.
male dominated. It says many titles have got a 70% or greater male demographic.
Yeah,
Chris
which
has
doesn't
that
mean
famous
that
tweet.
Women can't like everyone can like it. It is for everybody. But if you look at the demographics, when Bob was writing his biography, he even said that Star Wars was, I think, 94% male audience. And now I think it's dropped down, which is great. I'm happy that so many more people can get involved in Star Wars. But those were the initial numbers when he bought it from George. And so that's a big amount of your customer fan base. And so I would like to see a proper balance of, some shows that maybe show a male lead now, that we've had a whole bunch that have been very female-centric, like Kenobi. And people are going to be like, oh, no, it's Obi-Wan. Well, not really. It was kind of the Reva show, if you be honest here. And then, we got Acolyte. And I'd love to see, maybe Mando again. I missed that show. But, when we had Mando season 3, it was more so about Bo-Katan. And Mando wasn't really himself.
I mean, the fundamental thing I think that they're always going to struggle with is when Star Wars is a franchise based around space battles and lightsabers and like epic conflicts and space opera, you're never going to make that 50-50 with the genders. Like, that sort of thing doesn't appeal to the average
Well,
woman. And I'm
I'd say,
sorry.
why
to
are
be
we
able
even
to...
focusing on the 50-50? Why don't we just make a cool story and let whoever likes it like it?
Yeah, well, you made the point of like, okay, like maybe they've shifted the demographics so that there's less men who are watching it. The problem is there's not a corresponding increase in women. It's more just like fewer men are watching it, and so the audience overall has shrunk massively.
I was gonna say, can I do the hottest take then and say the shift in the percentage of male to female as a ratio, I think, is entirely irrelevant. I don't see that as a positive or a negative. It's neutral as to exactly who is drawn in by your particular product / entertainment, and that you shouldn't. I don't think with one as storied and as long as Star Wars, you should suddenly take a left turn and be like, now we should have that percentage change. Surely the percentage you should care about is how many people it gets to in a quality way, rather than as I feel like that's an arbitrary statistic. Like,
Well, it is, but
for
it's the
example,
kind of...
if someone said like, MauLer, you can, if you just make a video on Barbie, you'll increase your female audience by 2%, but you'll decrease your male one by 2%. I just be like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna make whatever I want to make on whatever video.
It's the same fucking reason that corporations all across like America or Britain or wherever will stymie the prospects for men, and they'll promote women to positions beyond their actual abilities because it's just better if we have more women in leadership positions. Why is it better? Don't know. It just is. Don't question it. That's the same line of thinking. It's just like, if you can just get this 50-50 gender parity, this magical number, by any means necessary, then everything will just be amazing. That's the line of thinking there. It doesn't.
And there's
make any
no way to get
sense.
there without discrimination.
But I guess my point is, like, if you try to argue the actual logistics of it, and like, well, why is it better? Why does it make the company or the studio or the product better? That's when you get called like an hysterophobe or whatever. That's the problem. Like, there's not an ability to like have a rational discussion about it, and this is why you end up in the situation where you're in, where you get idiots like Leslie Headland who don't know anything about Star Wars, probably don't care about it one bit, but it's a career opportunity for her to have a massive show, $180 million at her disposal to blow on her own personal therapy session. Of course she's going to do it. Of course she's going to take it. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make the end product better. It doesn't give you good stories. But man, you can say that you promoted a woman to a position of power within your studio, and that makes you good. Sure, of course it does. That's why you end up with the Acolyte. That's why nobody fucking watches it. That's why Star Wars is a dead, irrelevant brand at this point. But I hope it was fucking worth it for you. I really do. I hope you can pat yourself on the back at night and just say, yeah, I did really well there.
Yeah,
Nice.
replay the clip you just played with the inspiration from whatever the hell she wanted.
They seem real happy about it.
To have a hot take on perhaps the other end, though, I don't fully appreciate referring to like the destruction of quality of Star Wars as a result of turning toward women. Like,
no, it's not a uniquely. I guess my point is like bringing people in because of their gender or because of their sexuality or whatever it is, rather than their passion for the brand or their ability as storytellers or whatever. It
wasn't necessarily a comment on anything you said.
There's a particular focus on getting women into Star Wars. I guess
it's more so
inexperienced women. When you look at their credits,
Inexperienced anybody.
Yeah, they're all inexperienced.
Ryan
people.
Johnson, inexperienced in terms of Star Wars, experienced in making movies. Yeah, the movie looked great.
I mean, the implication, of course, is that I'm trying to avoid is that all women's content is shit.
They'll make that of course headline about it anyway. The point is,
I guess I'm saying, like, in the case of like taking what you, as Chris said, a boy brand and trying to port women into it without like checking if
that's
they
the
actually
part.
care about it. That's the
I feel like
issue.
a demographic shift in focus on that is so irrelevant. Like, it shouldn't even be a focus at all. You should be focusing on getting the right storytellers in for the right stories for the right IP. That's like the main focus. The idea that it's like, oh, thank goodness we've shifted it to 50-50 finally. That means we've reached peak. I'd be like, that doesn't mean anything.
In terms of telling a story, the story itself, if it were sentient, doesn't care about the politics of who wrote it. It cares on the story. Like, it's the character development, where it goes. Now, I remembered my question that I wanted to ask all of you guys, especially MauLer. I'd love to know what you think. About the Jedi that decided to take these four sensitive kids that were about the same age as Anakin when they gave him such a hard time and wouldn't train him until Qui-Gon dies and Obi-Wan threatens to leave. And then after now Osha has all of this trauma, they decide to still train her. What is is this decision the deciding factor of why they refuse to train Anakin? He's too old.
I heard Ryan speculating that this is gonna be what sets the rule or something, and I was like, oh god,
No, it's not.
Keep wanting to do that, don't they? Let us tell the story of how this thing you know to be true originally happened. And you're like, oh god.
I hope that she's not trying to, and she probably is trying to change so many things with the Phantom Menace. This is how Plagueis learned to create midichlorians and create Anakin, create the Chosen One.
Well,
Nimbus right now?
I refer to my previous comments about like, well, it's easy to go back and retcon so that like X, Y, and Z happened because of these specific characters that you just inserted into your narrative.
Please no.
It's easy to do.
Please no.
Well, I think there is if it was written so well, we probably wouldn't mind some tweaks and chiseling of different ideas at the core of what we've come to love about a franchise.
I mean, it comes down to like implementation. If it's well done, well thought out, like great characters, like great justification for what you're doing. Okay.
That's where we're at. It's like even the vague suggestion that they would want to play with any particular era at this point. It's just like, go away.
Literally, go. Now she wants to do the Old Republic, I hear.
The second one, because Kreia has a whole thing about the. I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't, because it's a great game, even though if it's very old. Yeah, play it. And if she gets her hands on that, it would play into her whole cultural Marxism. There's no good or bad. Just stop, leave it alone. It's dead.
Well, hey man, my breakdown views haven't been this good since The Mandalorian when people actually loved Star Wars. So I mean, at this point, if we're gonna play that game.
By the way, Master Soul is completely emotionally compromised from the beginning. The moment he I guess didn't know that there is no emotion, there is peace. Because from the beginning, yeah, he could be empathetic, but he seems very emotionally connected. And at the end, I will take you, and it's like, bro, calm down. You're a Jedi. You shouldn't be that connected to her yet. And then, even if you say the line of like, well, it's the High Republic, and they were a little bit more, since they're expanding, a little bit looser on their age limits. She's super emotionally compromised, as you pointed out. Yeah, it's bad.
Remember when they both fell off the bridge?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just use the Force like he did on the ice planet?
I don't know why would they show us
both
that?
of them? You have to focus on one person, like it disrupts your concentration.
You know for a fucking fact that the few who liked it would have been like, he was too far away. He didn't see what was fully happening.
What?
This is what I mean. You have to it's just like, why can't you just... It's stupid. Why did they show us that? They should not have showed us that.
He could have grabbed both, just like Master and Dara could have blocked both knives at the same time. Like, you can do two things at once. Like, yeah. Both. That's just them not understanding exactly how the Force can be used, or the fact that he would have felt both of their presence. He could have done it without seeing them. I don't.
Well, with the writer that never watched Star Wars, imagine being hired by Lucasfilm to write a new Star Wars episode for a new show, and you're like, I've never seen Star Wars. Am I gonna go watch it now? Oh, cool. Oh, he's his father. Oh, interesting. I'll probably watch the sequel trilogy.
About people who join projects where they're like, oh, I'm not as familiar. I'm going to go get hyper familiar. It's like, yeah, that's a good attitude.
I get one person not knowing so they can come up and spitball, but then you need like 12 other people going, no, that's not how the Force works. Or,
the amount of times you hear the reasoning is always, well, I wouldn't want it to influence, my point of view on how this story should run. And you're just like, why not? why would you
I used to try that back in university. It's like, did you do any research for this paper you wrote? Well, I wouldn't want it to influence like what the conclusions that
yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Shit.
Well, to be fair, when making
to make it up as I go.
Documentaries on Cleopatra, for example, I doubt they're going to be looking at history. That'll be pointless.
Could we just talk real quick about
my grandmother told me Cleopatra was black.
The mind reading and all that, because I know like mind graping is going around. Like, for sure, that the example of that would be Kylo Ren. I know, I hate the Disney, but like that version of it, going and ripping information out of people, that is for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like most Jedi can read surface thoughts, just idle surface thoughts. And now the difference is most would have like an inbuilt check to not violate someone's, which is why an Anakin or whatever don't do, or an Obi-Wan didn't do it to Zam or something like that. You only do it as a last result. I think, but if the Jedi Council did it to Anakin, it's the test. You're just reading surface thoughts. What do you see on this viewer?
I think the Jedi can sense emotions rather than
Yes.
specific thoughts.
For sure,
like, I can
emotions,
tell
yes.
if this person's angry or like holding something back or whatever. But like,
Fear.
you'd have to probe
Mhm.
deeper to like actually get specific memories or
Your thoughts
information
dwell
from
on your mother. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a
Yeah.
thought, and what image he can see. So that's how they knew. I think. I
It
guess they could tell
causes-
deception.
It
That's how
causes
they knew
nothing
she
but
was
problems when it
Yeah.
seems to be implied that you can essentially communicate through telepathy with people now, as long as you leave your brain. Say two Jedi should be able to probably just straight up read without any resistance between each other, and it's
Yeah.
creating problems for them in their own scenes already, right? All the different people that remember they couldn't be sure if they could trust Osha, and it's like
They
there's a
would've-
way
yeah.
you can find out, guys.
That's the thing. When you've established you can do that, it's like, well, okay, she opens her mind to you, and you can read her thoughts and tell if she's telling the truth. And if she blocks you, well, she's probably hiding something. In which case, you definitely shouldn't trust her.
And she was gung ho. She would have let them do it.
But there was one Jedi that had a power above every single Jedi, and that was Anakin when it came to seeing into the future. No other Jedi could do this. No other Jedi, no Sith. Palpatine couldn't see into the future as well as Anakin could, but once he burned, this was in the books, that power went to zero. He couldn't
Don't
see.
say that theory. They'll take it away and have them do it
I
now.
always assumed that Palpatine was actually showing him visions of the future, and like he was using that to manipulate him.
Yeah, I love
be
that
wrong on
theory.
that one.
It's an
Well, you're
interesting
talking to
one.
the right guy, Trigger. It's
Yeah.
like
Do
remember
you have
the
a theory,
that
Star Wars?
Palpatine was drawing
Well,
the life
I-
energy of Padme into Anakin to keep him alive, or whatever, right?
I don't
That's the
think
theory.
so. I think those visions were just the Force showing Anakin, what the future is going to be based on his intent and his personality and his insecurities and his needing to control everything. Oh shit!
What was your interpretation of the Ascension? Because it was mine going with their communist narrative that they were literally, and I hate the term because I'm pretty sure it was just a force bond, but a dyad, that's what they were creating between the two sisters and then transferring all of their power into those two. So as long as they're working in conjunction, they have the power of one, the power of men, like that's, but it's cringy, but
Well,
that's why they
clearly
have
they
visions of each
failed.
other.
Because
clearly.
they only did it on one.
Yeah, they only did it on one.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen the context, but they all got fucked. So there was so much for the power of many.
You know what's funny as well? Like
Yeah,
when she
yeah.
was trying to demonstrate like the power of one, okay, she like does the force push on her and knocks her over, and then it's like the power of two knocks them over as well. Like, shouldn't you be trying to demonstrate that two can kind of
I
push
thought
back
that.
against you and like like they're
They take a
stronger
little longer
together?
to knock over, but
just
she
that
still knocks them
powerful.
over. I guess she's just the OP one. That's why she's their leader, I guess.
Yeah, she's a queen bee.
It's just like it's
Yes.
weak. It's fucking weak.
Yeah, what
Visual
is she?
storytelling.
Yeah, what is with this whole all of the people in this show are saying how Star Wars is a patriarchy and it's misogynistic and all. I've seen Leslie Headland say it. I've seen the Anastasia actress say it.
Was it because the
I
main
don't
powerful
know.
figures
No
are male?
one
I
else
guess they-
ever said that before she said that.
No,
No
'cause
one
it's not
looked at
enough.
Star Wars and
Nobody,
said,
yeah.
it's these terrible ideas that are inset in sort of people who are mentally ill, in my opinion.
Well,
I'm
and they
sure that
project-
Leslie
four of the-
behind
They
four of the
scenes
project
last-
it onto it.
was
Four
probably
of the
talking
past
about
5 Disney movies have been female-led. You had Ahsoka, a female-led series. You've had The Mandalorian season 3, which became a female-led series. You had Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was essentially also a female-led series. The
Rogue
entire
One.
Lucasfilm story group is pretty
Yeah.
much predominantly female. The woman who runs the entire studio, who oversees this, is a woman. Like, what? How much more do you need?
Don't forget
Like-
Rey and Jin, our
Yeah.
classic heroines.
And
Made
look,
them-
we don't give a shit, but if they were telling good stories and weren't trying to interject all of this politics into it, like, fine.
But that's why they
are.
hate us, because we don't give a shit. They want us to give a shit that they're female and that's the whole point. They're really upset that we don't give a shit. We just want good storytelling. They
I think
want
next-
us to like it because
next
it's women
open bar-
and diversity.
Next open bar, we all come in full makeup and drag.
I'm
very
definitely
I'm
up for that.
Yes.
We said we were going to do something special for Open Bar 100. I think that could be the special thing.
No, see, like, what are they gonna say? Take clips of us, be like, they hate women. It's like, we are women.
Yeah, exactly.
That would-
We're strong, independent women, and we don't need
They-
men to tell
They
us
would, they would flip
we're
it.
worth.
They would be like, "This is even more misogynistic." Doing that.
It's the Miles Morales thing. It's not enough that there's a Miles Morales Spider-Man, that he's a Spider-Man. He needs to be the Spider-Man. It's not enough that there were strong women. They need to be as or more important than Anakin and Luke. That's just what it is. That's why they're being replaced. That's why we're getting Ahsoka as a star instead of Luke Skywalker series rebuilding the Jedi Order that he never really failed. That he never did, thanks to them. Now, just go back to the old.
Ahsoka, they wrote Ahsoka well. You know, they did her well in the Clone. You guys might not agree, but I feel
In the
like
Clone
they did
Wars,
okay.
I would imagine they did. I think
In the Clone Wars, they did a fine job.
I think with their own show,
I didn't like Ahsoka.
The sound of the fan base split already.
Yeah, with the show, I guess if it was different than the Clone Wars, but you know, I bet you they're going to focus on Asajj Ventress now, which is, I think, cooler than even Ahsoka. So
Ahsoka's bland as fuck from her show. It feels like they don't. They've got that same problem they have with so many women in the MCU as well as Star Wars, where they don't want to hurt them too much. They don't want to push them in any particular direction. They want to keep them safe and let them be on their path. Like Ahsoka felt like she was left alone pretty hardcore, despite the fact that on paper she drowned. She was defeated in a battle.
It was a force stasis.
Well, and I've had people say that she's died 3 times in her story, and it's just like, God, what? I don't even know what to do. Like, it's funny, right? It's like, what do you remember of Ahsoka season 1, the TV show? I'd be like, Thrawn Army of Zombies, I think. That's what we're getting. And I'd be like, well, no, the main character. I'd be like,
Well, put it in perspective, right? So imagine in the sequel trilogy, if Rey had actually taken a beating at the hands of Kylo Ren and perhaps lost a hand,
a limb,
in a lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
Something which has happened quite a few times in Star Wars, I'm reliably informed. You'd probably feel quite sorry for her then. You might develop a bit of empathy towards the character. She struggles, she's taken a beating, she has to come back from that. That's good stuff, good character building, pretty basic, but you know, it works. They couldn't do that though. They would never show her taking a major injury like that. Wouldn't
Who
be
do
allowed.
you trust to use to do Ventress right and not turn her insufferable? She's a great, strong female character, which means they'll make her insufferable. I like her, which means they'll do her with no nuance. She'll just be, see you next Tuesday to people. Work that one out. Yeah. So who would you trust to do Ventress?
Star Wars is like a horrible girlfriend that
Dave
cheated
Filoni.
on you, but you keep going back to her.
Yeah.
They're all idiots. We're idiots for thinking anything that this team will ever produce will be good. It will never be. It will never be.
well, wait,
Star
Chris, what's
Wars,
your opinion on Andor?
What?
What's your take on Andor?
No, Andor's boring. It looked good. It looks good. Production-wise, looks way better than Acolyte. But I just think go away. You frigid, go away for 10 years, 10 years, and a new team, a different team, a team that understands Star Wars, which is none of the people currently in charge in management, in every level at Lucasfilm. Do a purge. That's what it needs.
To answer your question, MauLer, like I've said this before. I liken Andor to Picard season 3. Like it was good for what it was.
Yeah.
Good quality storytelling, that sort of thing. You can definitely appreciate the work that went into it. It's not going to move the needle, though. It's not.
No,
big enough
absolutely
to-
not. I don't even think if they had 3 great seasons, it would move the needle.
No,
Andor.
it wouldn't.
It feels like the people who make Andor in like a cul-de-sac in Lucasfilm that is surrounded by steel walls that no one else has any interaction with. I don't even know what to make of it. It's so weird.
I think
Because,
the rest of the Lucasfilm just don't care because it's so obscure that
Just like Picard
"Yeah,
season
do what you
3,
want."
no one paid attention. They let them do their own thing, and we got what we got. And I don't think Andor is so much boring, although I was bored for a lot of it. It's like, I don't care about Cassian Andor. It's no offense to him. I just don't care.
I think
I don't blame-
it's easier to engage with Andor on an intellectual level rather than an emotional one.
I
And I
love
think
the
part of
SBI
it-
and all the other things they did, but
Yeah, I think that is the great aspect of it. Like, wow, making the Empire a genuine threat, showing people being
Yeah.
intelligent and actually doing the work. That stuff is great. And like, fuck me, if you'd put that into the sequel trilogy, like that level of like intelligence and threat with the First Order, man, the stories we could have got.
Yeah.
It's just the because it's like it's siloed away in this little pocket universe. It's just not gonna do anything for Star Wars as a brand.
we really shouldn't be surprised. We live in the timeline where Han, Luke, and Leia weren't in a scene together. Like,
yeah, right.
oh, seriously, like that one single thing should have made us all realize what we were in for.
Or the death of Han Solo.
Yeah, which I,
was handled
I expected.
so poorly.
Harrison was always very vocal. He wanted Han to die. I knew, but yes, how it happened, he could have had a heroic death and sacrifice.
It could have been earned.
Yes.
An act of self-sacrifice in front of his friends, in front of Leia and Luke. And because it's not his character's dead.
Best we can do is Rey.
It's about their reaction. Who cares, Rey?
Yeah.
She met him a couple days ago, maybe.
Don't hug Chewie, Leia. Hug Rey. Hug
Yeah,
Chewie
Jesus
later
Christ.
in the book.
Even JJ acknowledged that fuck up. He was like, "Yeah, I don't know how that happened. That we had him fucking ignore Leia."
JJ, who likes
vice
1.5 Star Wars movies, doesn't like the prequels, doesn't like likes half of Return of the Jedi and part. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, well,
JJ is whatever's appropriate. What JJ is like, whatever his current thing, he supports.
He fucking slithered out of the
kind of
spotlight.
like
Crazy.
fuck, what's that guy's name with the backwards hat? He's like 40 now.
Oh,
or
Kevin
50.
Smith.
Yeah,
Yeah. Kevin Smith will cry at whatever.
Oh, he
you
never
ask him to
recovered
cry
from
to.
He-Man.
If you
I'm
put him in
pretty
a
sure he
he'll
liked
do it.
the Acolyte, by the way, Kevin.
Oh, I'm sure he cried. He never recovered from lying and
did he?
Clownfish called him out and all that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I've never seen one of his movies yet to this day.
You're probably better off. Clerks was okay.
Jay and Silent Bob had his
There's
moments.
some in there.
Yeah. I was going to do a couple of super chats just before we move on. There's one here from Bungles Twanger for $50. Says, lesbian headlamp is tricking you all. The witches actually represent modern society as a cult that won't let children choose to be trans. The Jedi are actually good because they want to help the kids transition. We'll find out soon. I mean, well, you read into things what you get, I suppose. Emissarial says, I'm reluctant to let go of Star Wars because it helped form my concept of what heroism should be. This show, through its portrayal of the Jedi, is attacking not just Star Wars, but the very idea of heroism itself. I believe that's why so many people are standing up to resist it. I like that. I think that's probably a valid
the conversation
perspective.
keeps coming up about why stay / why keep watching, why keep reviewing, or why engage. I feel like all of us would have very long and detailed, complicated answers, right? Because Chris just talked about how it's like hoping a girlfriend will change when you go back to it, sort of thing. I am always of the opinion that we should take each piece fairly, right? Like reset and be like, okay, I'm going to take your show, new showrunner, and I'm going to take it for what it is, instead of just being like, I hate this going in, fuck you. Which we all get accused of by everybody, right? Like not giving a fair shake. But I think that the sheer amount of analysis you get from any one of our channels is like, clearly we're not just going in strictly to hate. But the idea being, of course, want to be fair. And I like the Star Wars world. It's neat. At least the way that I like to remember it,
I think
because
as well, like we all project our personal experiences and there's always going to be a hook for all of us with these things, right? For example, with me, MauLer, I've talked to you about how I'm a fan of Red Dwarf, like the British comedy series, right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, there was a time when my grandfather took ill with a heart attack in the middle of the night. My parents had to go off to the hospital to see how he was and stuff. And I was kind of left alone in the house. I was only like 11, 12 years old, something like that. And like I couldn't sleep. And so I put on a VHS tape, and it was like one of the seasons of Red Dwarf. And I watched that all throughout the evening until my parents came home. And I always had fond memories of that show and that season because of that, because I had that personal association with it. And we sometimes apply those personal connections to things, and it gives it meaning, perhaps beyond what it was originally intended to be. And I think probably each of us have had that personal connection with Star Wars. Maybe we watched it with our dads or something like that, and that gives us something that we hook into. And you have that, and you want to believe in that because you want to believe in the same circumstances that got you through a tough time or that gave you some inspiration or whatever back in the day. And I think there's a real connection there with that. And that's what I think stops people from just giving up on things as easily as they might do otherwise.
Very beautiful.
I'm still there.
I think
It's very true. Yeah.
and
And I think a lot of these people who wonder why we're so passionate about it, they don't understand that, and maybe they don't hold that connection with Star Wars. And so the easiest thing that they can write off is, oh, they're sexist, they're racist, they're homophobic. That's why they're so passionate about this, because they're a bigot.
I think that's been the worst
Not
part.
at all.
Is because we know that when they're done ruining it and they walk away and they give us back our toys and they're all destroyed, we're going to be the ones still, the ones that will never really let go. We're going to be the ones left with it. It's like,
Cleaning it, fixing it, repainting it,
trying to do something,
trying to make sense of it after
because we were the
chewed
ones
up and shat out.
We were the ones that did it when we got made fun of for liking it.
The people out there have a few of them there are who say like the Acolyte is the first show they could enjoy of Star Wars because finally it's past its phases of being. Someone shared it in my Discord. There was someone saying like it's difficult to get into Star Wars because it is very patriarchal or whatever. But the Acolyte is one of the first ones they can fully enjoy. I was like, will you stay around for the Acolyte season 2 or another TV show, or will you be gone and you'll just this notion of like surfing, right?
Yeah,
like,
will you even watch it?
Based on views, will you
pretend to watch it on
watch
Twitter
it?
so you get some free likes and some retweets, and then you'll move on to the next thing that you pretend
Exactly.
to care about.
Yeah, Locust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
100%.
tell you, man, like the worst thing that ever happened was geek culture got infiltrated by fucking tourists. It became mainstream.
Yeah.
And it became
We
just
were
a
too
platform
open.
for people to like take over.
Well, that was
Well, the
that
people
was the
that-
other one I
that
wanted to bring
bullied
up.
us.
Well,
Yeah.
Are now in
not
control.
just tourists, but surfers as well, right? Like they just jump onto whatever the newest thing that's come out is.
No.
They
No, but what
join up
Theory
with everybody.
said is the big thing. It's the people that used to make fun of us and have contempt for us are now in control of all the things we love, and they are aware of it. And
Yep.
they've
And they are-
systematically
They're the
ruined.
bullies. They're
Yeah.
the bullies.
They're still the
And the
fucking
biggest.
bullies.
Yes.
And now they're why are you so passionate about this changing? You must be an istinophobe.
Mm-hmm.
No, you fuck. We were backing this thing back when you were making fun of us for it.
Yeah.
And I spent my high school eating lunch in the fucking stairwell, reading my Star Wars comics. And now I have these asshole jocks that are in control of it, telling me about Star Wars?
Yeah.
And, why I have a problem with the way it's being turned? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
No.
Bro.
That's basically what it is. It's like, yeah, so we just need to take it back and rebuild. Fine. Bye.
Yeah.
Just
Literally.
Or just break up with Star Wars for good.
No, I want his Mace Windu film. I want
Don't
part 2.
take Star Wars back. Break up.
No, the only
it's
way we
over.
do it is by being vocal about it and talking about how this is just such a
Yeah,
ridiculous perversion of what George had created. I mean, you guys know my friends in the Star Wars space, all the OGs, man. They all think the fucking same.
Yeah.
They're just not vocal about it. This is not what the media is trying to tell people. Oh, you're just sexist and racist. Bullshit. That's just a cop out. We are so passionate about this franchise, and it's being completely perverted into something that it never was supposed to be. Forget poor writing. It's just they don't understand the actual lore, where it actually comes from. And to just brand us as the istinphobe or whatever bullshit, it's just such an easy cop-out for them because they don't have the actual intellect to say, oh, well, why do these people think this way? Oh, they're just this.
We
Okay.
kept it alive in the 90s with our expanded universe purchases. And
We're the reason
went and
it
saw
was
the
$4
special
billion.
editions, which, yeah, like, bro.
Yeah.
well, no, there's so many reasons to add on to it too. Like, there's plenty of people out there who feel this way, and they want voices to be able to know that they're not alone and they don't feel crazy. And then there's the aspect that having a place, having different platforms that this can be discussed on, makes it feel as though there's a projected voice as opposed to a comment here and there that maybe can make a difference. And I think even if it makes a tiny difference, isn't that worth it?
Yes. There are so
MauLer,
many
we-
people
Why would
that
you do
I see that are like, oh, thank you for making me feel sane. Because there are so many outcrying of people out there that are these new age fans that Disney has brought in to make everyone think that if you don't like it, then you are this and that. And
Oh, that's everything. That's when I
I'm
found
here-
Gary years ago. I was like, oh, I'm not insane because I don't like Captain Marvel. Like, this is the same
Right.
thing has been gone over and over and over and over. Oh, you don't
Right.
like it? You're a horrible person. That should be Yeah, this is the same thing.
Yeah. No, I know. And I fight against that. And I think so many of us do.
You have been watching. Your journey's been great of acknowledging it, and then you get attacked. You're like, no, I'm just giving you my honest opinion.
Yeah. And
That's all we
I
want.
think
Wouldn't
I'm
people
now
rather
starting
have
after.
that than rather than you just pretending that everything's awesome, like you're
Well, we have
respecting
those
your
people.
audience enough to be honest with them.
We have some of those people that get invited out to Lucasfilm and stuff. I know them personally. And they don't. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see. You sell your soul. You want to be in with the group. Fine, but you're gonna be judged for it for sure.
Just
Yeah, I think
before we go
we-
on, I know Chris, you're you're kind of out of
Yeah,
time.
unfortunately pressed for time. But MauLer, I want to make sure you're gonna EFAP episode 3 on Saturday, right? You're gonna
It's already
EFAP
out.
it?
Yeah, they've done it already.
You did it.
It came out today.
It-
You could
Okay,
ask.
great.
We finished at exactly 11 p.m. right recording, or rather, no, we started at 11 p.m. recording, and then I edited for I want to say 16 hours straight and
Jesus.
put it out.
Great.
It was a nightmare. But to be fair, I want to make clear I had a lot of help from Fringy and Das bullshit legends.
Before I do have to leave, but anyone care about anything about episode 4? I've seen it. Does anyone?
Clowns?
Yeah,
What are the-
enlighten us,
Give
Chris.
us what's notable about it, Chris.
Not much. They go to the planet where the Jedi Wookiee is to track him down. May is on the hunt to kill him. The next target, the Jedi and Osha all go there in tow to this planet, and it's a face-off at the end between all the Jedi and Smilo Ren.
Hey.
Oh shit, he's
And-
there.
Yeah,
She's
he's
there.
there, and not much happens.
All
But
right.
that's it. It's
I
back
did-
to the
I-
present, and it's.
I did like the scene between like Osha and the Jedi, or sorry, the Wookiee Jedi, where like
Yeah.
he's fixing some speeder or whatever, and she's like, "Hi," and he just goes like, "That's the scene over." Like, wow, good conversation.
I don't think
Yeah,
she spoke
so-
Shiriwook.
See you later.
Yeah, it's not gonna progress things very far. So, but I'll watch this train wreck until the end.
Do
I
they
can't
actually
wait.
fight, or it's just they see each other ignite lightsabers and it goes to the end of
There's
the
a
episode?
standoff. They all ignite their lightsabers, and then Smilo Ren does a push, and all the Jedi get pushed back.
Ugh.
So one
It's
Smilo Ren
powerful.
against all the
Power of
Jedi,
many.
and then
Yeah,
cut to
literally.
black.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Got all the dead,
spoilers. Like anyone cares.
Yeah.
the dead people from that place are all within the spirit of Smilo Ren.
I am all the
Ah.
Jedi. Yeah.
He is all
I'm all,
the
I'm all the witches.
Exactly. But I want to thank everyone here, Drinker, for having me. MauLer, Badger Theory, thanks so much.
Pleasure,
I'm
Chris.
on my Film Threat channel on Wednesday, July 17th. We're doing a global event all day. We're doing a funeral for a franchise. People will come on and give eulogies to Star Wars, and it'll be hours long. And we're doing that for fun, kind of like our Critics Court. If anyone saw Critics
I
Court,
did. This is very
put-
good.
I took
we
part in
put
it.
we put Lucasfilm on trial for the murder of the franchise. So that's coming in July. So maybe you'd like to come on, give a little eulogy, dress all in black. It is a funeral, and
I would do that. Yeah.
we're just gonna have fun. But thank you so much. Hope to be back soon. And I dropped some links in there for fun, including an interview with Daisy Ridley. don't know
I
if you've
saw that.
seen-
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you that one where she talks about the reaction to? It's a recent interview.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, is that when she says she's had positive interactions with fans, that sort of thing?
Well, kinda. Yeah. It's I don't know if you've seen it, but anyways.
Okay. I'll
worth-
yeah. I'll
worth
look
noting.
that.
Anyways, thank you all. Take care, and may the thread be with you.
Oh
See you later,
no.
Chris.
That's
Bye.
Thanks, Chris. Awesome. Well, yeah.
fucking thread.
May the thread be with us.
Jesus Christ.
Like one of the other things I was going to talk about, because I think we've kind of run our course with Star Wars right now. It's been tough, but we got through it. I was going to say in slightly lighter news, we've been talking quite a bit about in recent weeks the box office for the summer movie season has been pretty depressing. You know, Furiosa has flopped, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes flopped, The Fall Guy flopped, but apparently Bad Boys Ride or Die has done actually pretty well. It had $100
shit.
million opening weekend. It's currently sitting at 120 million worldwide. It's probably going to jump quite a bit as we head into the second weekend. And it's actually been a pretty good movie. It's nothing groundbreaking in terms of the story or the filmmaking or anything. It's just an old-fashioned action movie, but it seems to have like caught on to something, and it's actually done pretty well. And I guess I was kind of interested, like, you know, MauLer, as you brought up the point that there's like an anti-fandom around Disney Star Wars at the moment, there seems to be almost like a search for something positive, I guess, in modern cinema, and this seems to be one of the things that people have latched onto. And I guess I'm just curious, like, can this turn things around for Hollywood? Is this just going to be a flash in the pan, or are we going to have now a bit of a run of good movies, or at least successful movies at the box office?
I think it's a flash in the pan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you get a movie that's like, okay, decent.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I've seen it. It's fine. It's like
Oh, you saw
perfectly fun. It's you know, it's a good action movie. I think the directors have done a good job with making it nice and kinetic, fast paced, quite inventive in terms of the action scenes, like the camera work, that sort of thing is all pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the stuff doing the rounds on Twitter, like where they've got the rotating camera,
literally,
that's like on a gimbal.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's not the sort of thing you see very often, but it actually works really well on screen.
Oh, that's cool. It's like a first-person shooter almost.
Yeah, it's like Hardcore Henry, but like, you know, transposed into the Bad Boys universe. Is pretty cool. But
I like
want
the
to see
Bad
more
Boy
stuff
movies.
like that.
Well, you know, I'm waiting for Austin Powers 4. I'm waiting for Rush Hour 4. I can't remember if there were talks of Shanghai Nights 3.
All sequels.
Remember that?
Yeah.
You guys remember Shanghai Nights?
When I
remember
was
Shanghai
thinking
Nights,
about Austin Powers 4 being made, I meant, you know, soon after 3. Getting made today, I don't know about that.
No, I think there's talks about it. And I think
No. I know that. I'm saying I don't know that I'd want it to be made today.
Right.
Because it would be super political and
It
you
would
can't
be
say anything.
shit, probably.
Because isn't that the thing with most of the movies?
But I don't
they've
think
been written. Now they're coming out, so it's going to take another couple years for them to maybe course correct. Like I'm over here going to see old movies in the theater. Like I just watched all the Lord of the Rings extended edition in the theaters at like my local. Was like, oh, I'll do this. I'd rather just watch old good movies for the first time. Like, you know, on the big screen, not for the first time, but you know.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll start making, but I don't think Mike Myers really cares about that shit. I just don't. I don't think he's the type.
Yeah, he's kind of semi-retired at this point, hasn't he? And he's just,
after Shrek. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just kind of doing the things that he's like he enjoys or whatever that he cares about. But I think with something like Bad Boys, like it was still got guys like Jerry Bruckheimer as executive producers. And I do wonder if there's a bit of an appetite for a comeback for movies like that. You know, we all know the sort of Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer style of movie that was around in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's been quite some time since we've had that kind of thing. And I wonder if that's making a bit of a comeback at this point.
Do you think we're just in the opposite end of where we were, let's say, 2018-19, where it was almost figured out to a T in a lab exactly what movies make money and don't, and now we're at a point where it's like, I have no fucking clue. It could be anything.
Well, trends run their course, don't they? Like we had the superhero genre. You know, we've had various things that have come and gone, and like there's now the search for the next thing. And we talked about this before. Like maybe it's going to be video game adaptations. Maybe action movies are going to make a more of a comeback and become like the mainstay of the summer movie season. We're still in a state of flux right now. We haven't quite figured it out. And obviously, it takes a couple of years to get a movie through production, scripting, principal photography, and then post-production to actually get it out there. So it's a slow-moving ship, I suppose, but it has to change course at some point. It has to pick a new direction, and it just I guess I wonder which direction it's ultimately going to take.
Yeah, Cowboy with that Kevin Costner, his great next like Dances with Wolves, the American Saga or whatever. That's going to be a big long 2-part, 4 hours in total.
Yeah.
And then
it could be Dances with Wolves, or it could be The Postman. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Kevin
which
Costner,
I like The Postman, unfortunately. So, it could go either way. But people want anything other than another Panderstone. Basically.
I think action movies are the way. 90s had some dope ass action movies. 80s had some awesome action movies. I think we just need stuff like that again.
Yeah.
There's too much reliance on superhero movies, which are great. But, I want to see some kind of like Reacher, you want to see some jacked dudes that are just doing dude shit and like fucking people up.
Well, I think to an extent as well. The audience, it's like, what are they? I feel like they're ready to engage hardcore with some kind of trend or franchise, but there's just not enough of a unification on like which one is it? What are we doing? What's happening next?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
We've all been hurt.
Yeah.
We've all been hurt.
I don't even think that's like not even an exaggeration. I think a lot of people.
No, I'm
I've spoken
serious. Yeah.
to family members who casually just tell me like they haven't been to the cinema in ages, and I'll be like, "Oh, why?" And they're like, "It just doesn't feel worthwhile." It's like,
Well, look at Az. You've all told him about House of the Dragon, but because of his feelings on Game of Thrones, he won't even approach it. Maybe a couple years from now he'll watch it. Or
we're trying to push him on that.
I hope he does, because I was like, no. I did the 7 and 8 really upset me for various reasons, and then I watched the first one and the second one, and before I knew it, I was like, this is the best damn television ever. So there's stuff out there, but
would you say
that's
it's better
Gary
than Game of Thrones?
I mean, season 1 of House of the Dragon, I would rank it probably above 5, 6, 7, 8 of Game of Thrones, and then it would start getting complicated to rank it against 1, 2, 3, 4. But I was just going to say, and Gary, I think, is definitely on this sort of train. I know Drinker would be, and I imagine you would be as well, Theory as well, you Badger, that we kind of like, we see an opportunity with House of the Dragon of like, oh, we've got a chance here to weekly speculate and celebrate a TV show and talk about it with everybody in a fun, positive way.
Yeah,
That'd
it's
be
made
nice.
by people that I don't think hate me is the big one also.
And that's the
always
thing
a
about
plus.
people who are like, I'd rather wait till it finishes before I, take a chance or something like that. And it's like, that's fair and fine, and I totally understand. But at the same time, it would be neat if you were there for the fun of the chatting about it and the celebrating that there is still media to, like the Arcane season 2 trailer just dropped, and a lot of people are getting hyped for that. I'm really hoping that's going to be really good. Be nice.
Yeah. Well,
I
I guess with House of the Dragon, like, because it's kind of proved itself with season 1, do you think season 2 is going to have a much bigger impact? Because as good as season 1 was, I don't feel like it was a Game of Thrones level good, where like it was a water cooler show where everyone was talking about it. It was more just like, yeah, we recognize this is pretty decent, and you've definitely redeemed yourselves a little bit after Game of Thrones.
If you believe Ryan and Gary, it's going to be more divisive than the Red Wedding as far as like things that happen, and that's
Oh,
like the
wow.
first
Okay.
episode.
We'll see.
So, I haven't read the books that I know you haven't either, because that's why. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen. I like the speculation.
Well, and I've been rewatching it to get caught back up, and I've just been reminded of like it's staggering to watch House of the Dragon and Acolyte back to back. The insane that Ryan had mentioned it on one of these streams, just that HBO, they have a long history of making TV shows, while Lucasfilm clearly still haven't figured it out yet. They don't know how to, whether or not we talk about what story decisions they make. I'm sorry, Theory, I don't like barely any of their TV shows. Like, it's
Mando? You didn't like Mando 1?
season 1 I thought was, but to be fair, I think Andor's good. So it's,
Yeah.
but I still would agree, even with that they don't know what they're doing.
Look, I think Andor was written very well, and I think it was shot very well. I think the music was good. I just found the story to be a little prolonged. That was it for
Those
me.
space AK-47s. I noticed it.
Yeah.
I noticed it.
I
But
I think
was
with Mando as well, like that the secret to its success in season 1 lay in its absolute boneheaded simplicity. Just like
It's the way.
easiest, the easiest possible storyline. Just man with no name, gunslinger, goes into like some random location, gets involved in a mini adventure of the week, and then moves on to the next thing. Easy
Yeah.
peasy. You can't go wrong
Yeah.
with that sort of formula.
Nope.
They started to then branch out with season 2 and then season 3. Like they tried to make it this big epic story that's tied into loads of other things. That's
Season
when they just
3,
came unstuck.
God, I don't know what the hell happened there. My clones. It's like, what? Why are you back?
Chris Gore had said it. He said in tweets too. The Disney literally, and it's not even an insult, they do not know how to make television. They do it all. They remember that they did it all at once instead of being able to course correct. Like they did a bunch of amateur things in just television making. They made them like movies, and that's why you saw all of their multiple, amongst many other reasons, failures.
Oh, they just need to stick to the lore, man. When it comes to,
Yeah.
it's like it's hard enough to make a show. It's extremely hard to make something Star Wars because you got to understand the lore. You can't be hiring people that are just they don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to inject their own childhood issues into a story like what Leslie's doing, and it just doesn't work, man. This is not your like personal therapy session, especially when you're getting $180 million, double the budget of Kenobi. So like I don't. There's so many decisions I don't understand. I don't
Well,
get
but
it.
you do.
Kenobi, I like there
You do
was
understand.
many issues with Kenobi, but I don't think the budget was chief amongst them.
If you
I would
understand
hire
that they're
completely different writers for it.
if
Oh,
you
yeah.
understand that the only thing that they want is to have strong female representation, regardless if it's well written or not, then everything should make sense to you. That's why instead of focusing on Anakin and Obi-Wan and getting flashbacks, we got Reva and Tala and Leia. That's
Right.
what they want. And if you understand that that's what they want, well, then the power of many, it all starts to make sense. That's what they want. That's what we're getting. That Force is female.
But wouldn't they rather do that and have a well-written story so then people would really
You'd
love
think. You'd think that, but
Well,
they
they
seem to
would,
be
but
completely fine with having a shitty story and getting us all to leave, and then as long as they get that first part.
Well, the problem is
It's-
activism and good storytelling don't usually go hand in hand, and so you
Right.
can choose one or the other. Like if
Right.
you hire, in the case of Leslie Headland, you hire a gay feminist activist, well, you're going to get a gay feminist activist storyline, essentially. So I'm not even mad at them because it's like,
Yeah.
well, you knew what you were getting into. Like this is
But I
what you
don't know,
hired, and
man.
this is what she was
it's-
going to produce.
Garbage in, garbage out. You hire activists, you get activism. That's just what it is. And they don't even lie about it. I mean, they tell you right there so much footage of them just blatantly saying it. If you don't like it,
Yeah.
bye,
patriarchy and
Hey,
you know,
bruh.
I like this one as well. Chernobog says, I hate Acolyte, but Thread doesn't ruin Star Wars. Think about our world. Buddhists would say Jesus is wrong. A Christian would say that the Buddha isn't real. Unless Force says that the witches are right, they're just backing their belief. Doesn't make them right. I mean, as MauLer kind of said, they're all dead now, so we don't have to really listen to what they say anyway.
What
And
I
yeah,
said is like
that's-
I consider them incorrect and they're dead, so I don't have to think
Yeah.
about it.
No, they're
well,
wrong.
that's something
clearly.
I argued as well, is that the only argument that people can have, or supporters of the show can have, is that these are a different sect of people in their own world, in their own part of the galaxy, and they have their own identity or definition of what the Force is, and that's fine. My real issue is how they are literally
Twins,
using
right?
magic, fucking magic, to create this thread, but then using talking about it as if it's the Force. Those are two different things.
Because they're
Those
not
are
two, that's the
divided-
thing for theory. They're not two different things. And even
They
the essential
totally
guide,
are.
I went and looked, they're 100% not. It
To-
even says that
Okay,
other cultures
then
call
how
it
do you
different
explain?
things.
Then how do
Yes.
you explain Mother Talzin creating legs for Darth Maul with green smoky magic when the Jedi could never do such a fucking thing?
Because the Jedi clearly don't explore some of those paths because they're afraid to go down dark areas that particular sect of witches that called it magic, even though it's still the Force, were. And somehow they're able, through matter, to transfer it. It's the fucking Force power. They just call it magic.
Why are they doing
It's-
incantations? Why are they using potions? That's magic. That's something.
Why did the
completely
Jedi put
different
their
from the
hands
Force.
out like this instead of just doing like this? Because it's a focusing method.
They don't have to.
Why did
Sometimes
the
they don't.
Jedi used to imbue their swords with the Force? It's just another method. It's just called a different thing, but it is all the Force. It is all the Force.
Got a nerd showdown happening.
It's totally
Yeah,
different.
well,
And when
this is the
Palpatine
thing,
was
though.
using
I love
magic,
discussions like this. Like
when
these are
Palpatine
the
was
better
using,
things to argue
Palpatine
about.
started using Sith magic, and that's something even entirely different of itself.
Sith,
When he was trying to get into
sorcery.
the world between worlds, he was
Right.
using that blue magic
That's
that
some
was trying to get in there.
Filoni. And then once we start talking about anything in Disney, we're out, and there's no reason of referencing Star Wars lore because we stop with Star Wars lore as soon as we start talking about Disney stuff and what Filoni has changed.
We could call it all under the Force, but magic is a complete different thing. I mean, you're using potions. You got green shit that's like creating legs out of literally manifesting items and putting them together, and like no
create legs out
Jedi
of
could.
green
Do,
shit.
if a Jedi could do that, man, they would be creating ships.
Well, you're gonna love Clone Wars. That's why I would say you got to stop using Disney Star Wars as a reference for what Sith magic or Night Sister, because they retconned the Night Sisters too.
Jedi would never have to go to planets to get a kyber crystal. They would just sit there, spout some incantations, power of one, power of many, and then their kyber crystal would be created out of thin fucking air, and then they'd have their hilt created.
But they've
and it would
changed
be,
that too, right? And the bleeding, all that dumb shit was added by Filoni and Disney. Jedi never used to do it. The Sith didn't bleed lightsabers and imbue.
No. But they used to have to go to planets.
Right. No, well, Jedi, right, had to go to Ilum and other planets that are
Different
natural.
planets,
and,
yeah.
and then they changed it. So the whole point is that all the new shit that Dave has added specifically really ruins all the previous lore. They at least tried to make shit make sense. And, you'd have little
George added
retcons
them.
here and there. Right, George. And at the time,
Added the
Pablo, Hidalgo before he was super fucking corrupted. That was his job. He was no, this is this Ken did like at one point it did like for example, Mace Windu in Phantom Menace has a blue lightsaber. People go, why did he have blue there? And so of the retcon and that concordance of fealty where Jedi would trade lightsabers with each other. Like I'm not saying retcons of things didn't exist, but the Force, all the changes they've made to it, it really muddies the water. And at one point, 100% Force and magic with the same thing. It says it a billion times. Now, under Filoni, sure, okay, there's magic. Okay.
Well, I'm not even talking about Disney. I'm talking about when George created the Night Sisters.
Oh no, but it's 100% not magic, and I was just reading it too to double check to make sure I didn't say anything wrong. Magic and the Force is the same shit. It literally says that many different planets and cultures have come across the Force, don't know about the Jedi and Sith, and they just call it their own things. They come with their own traditions, but at its core, it's all the Force. It's all the Force.
So in the Clone Wars, when Mother Talzin's using the green magic, that's the Force. You're saying?
Yes. And the
So
purple shit is the Force also. That's just how they're displaying it, using whatever power. What breaks it more? That it's all the Force, or that it's this new fucking magic that's come about suddenly since Filoni? Like, what ruins it more? And what makes more sense?
I think magic's dope. I think the fact that there's like something completely separate from the Force that's magic. It's like a, whatever, call it a version of the Force.
I would like to
want.
call it necromancy.
Ooh.
Yeah. It is,
maybe
but I mean,
blood magic. Let's involve that, and then also hex.
Well,
magic.
I like the idea that like you can tap into a sort of different set of powers and skills, like that's
but
a little bit separate from the Force, and it's darker and it's more corruptive.
Well, for me, it's always going to be execution. And
thing
what
is
I get
not-
told by everyone is that I would hate what they do.
not every Jedi can use magic, though, right? It's you have to be a witch in order to use the magic. So Knight Brothers, they can't use magic. Jedi
then
can't
it
use
sets
magic.
up some interesting conflicts. Like, what would happen if you had a really strong magic user versus a really strong Force user? Like, how would their powers interact with each other?
Right,
That could be
Mother
quite fun.
Talzin versus Palpatine, and that happened in the Son of Dathomir comic, and that's why Palpatine was actually afraid of Mother Talzin and why he wanted to eradicate all of them.
Yeah, but didn't Grievous wipe out all the Night Sisters?
Grievous came in there, and then it was a battle in the. Did you read that comic run?
Yeah, which one is this?
Dathomir?
The new one? Because I checked out on the newer ones.
Son of Dathomir.
Which one is this?
Son of Dathomir takes place between season 5 and 6 of the Clone Wars.
Okay, no, I didn't read that.
It's after Palpatine captures. Oh, dude, it's fucking sick. It's after Palpatine captures Maul, and then he takes him, and then Dooku is like interrogating his ass, and then
and he says he has other plans for him.
Then Gar Saxon comes in, busts Maul out with all of the Maul DeLoreans. And then Palpatine comes in and he wants to fight Mother Talzin, and then he ends up killing Mother Talzin with Grievous and Dooku versus Maul and it's a really cool story. It's fucking sick.
Nice.
I'll check it out.
Well, I've got nothing to offer to this nerd discussion.
Yeah, it's fun.
But that just goes to show you.
I don't know
Star
why
Wars
they
is still
haven't created
alive
that
between like the fans. Like we could talk about the old school shit. All
Yeah,
day
yeah,
long. They
yeah,
can go
yeah.
make
People
everyone
in
gay.
chat are loving
Yeah,
this
we're
because
fine.
they're like, it's a proper nerd debate, and this is what we used to love about Star Wars.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's
like
perfect.
they need, if they want to make money, dude, they got to make that comic run into the Clone Wars animated.
Yeah.
Fuck, that would be so.
Well, there's a
sick.
bunch of shit they could do if they wanted to make money, but I don't think they even want to do that anymore.
yeah.
I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know why they don't make that. Well, that run is like the coolest. After Maul gets captured and he gets busted out by the freaking Mandalorians, and then like Dooku, Maul beats Dooku, then Grievous comes in with all of the droids, and then in the end Palpatine comes in, fights Mother Talzin alongside Dooku and Grievous, and then puts Maul into submission. It's such a cool.
It's like
story.
a wrestling match.
Dude,
He's
it's
got
so
him in a
cool.
submission hold.
Yeah, I know. It's all just bad guys fighting bad guys. It's sick.
You'll
Those are
love
the
it.
best
You'll love
ones. Yeah.
Can I do a few more super chats here that came in? There's one from Lazy but Talented for 100 BGN. I don't even know what they are. Modern cinema, hate masculine men but would love to be one. By the way, MauLer, Selfless is a great movie where Ryan Reynolds is not a clown but can actually act.
I've not seen that, but I have seen a few movies, 102, where he's doing acting. Ones I mentioned was Smoking Aces and Buried, the two films I've seen where I was like, oh my god, he's acting.
Oh my god, Ryan Reynolds can act. Who knew? Did you ever see him in oh man, it was like a horror movie.
You have to narrow it down a little bit more.
Bugger. Yeah.
Amityville Horror?
No, it was a remake of like a previous one. So hold on. Chat will probably be able to help me out with this one.
I think Amityville was a remake, wasn't it?
Amityville, yeah, that was it.
Oh yeah,
he
there you
did acting in that. He was not
There you
playing
go.
Ryan Reynolds. He was playing like a character with his own personality there.
Wonderful.
You've not seen that one?
Amityville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's got that Australian girl in it who was in
She was
fuck,
in Home
what's
and
the
Away.
film? Yeah, but what's the film?
She was
that came
like
out-
kind of weird prototype of Sydney Sweeney for some reason. I always
Is
associate her
Blake
with that.
Lively now Mrs. Deadpool?
Yeah, she's been married to Ryan Reynolds for a while.
No,
now.
no, I mean in the movie.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, there's supposed to be like a girl Deadpool.
That would be funny.
Apparently,
I
she's
actually
gonna
don't know.
play. It's her and some other.
I was thinking of Dark City, by the way. Melissa George. That's who she is. She's in.
Melissa George, yeah, she was.
She never
hot back in the
quite
day, goddamn.
kicked off, did she? She was in a couple of things and then she sort of disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I
She didn't
liked
have a good
her.
agent. Yeah, I like her for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Very talented.
Like I say, she was a prototype Sydney Sweeney. She had all the same attributes.
Such talent.
Yes.
Sydney
So many
Sweeney's so
talents.
freaking hot.
Yeah. Unfunny German says Star Wars is not only dead, it was dead and buried, but at least the memes are fun. So Anakin is the chosen one 3.0. Are there more? Yeah, there's
God.
probably infinite number of chosen ones.
Just keep it going.
I suppose.
Actually, out of curiosity, theory, how many Acolyte shows would have to come out before you would give up on Star Wars, do you think? And I'm talking
Oh,
theoretical here, like 1,000. Would that be enough?
Never give up on Star Wars.
Never give
Because I
up.
hold 1 to 6, so I'll still always defend it.
Yeah.
It's fair.
It's either me, supporting it, being like this is awesome, or it's me being like this is shit. What is this? I'll never go away.
I think honestly, I'm not too far away from you on that.
Yeah.
I always see it as well as a vantage point to just talk about storytelling, how they
Yeah.
could have done the thing better.
Yeah.
I mean,
In fact, I would argue now in this point in my career, I would even say it's equally as enjoyable to discuss how they've strayed so far away from George's Star Wars, because it kind of corrects everything, and it reminds me of like, oh, what it once was, instead of just being like, this is great, this is awesome, this is cool. And that's fun too, because then I could dive into the lore and like how it's all synergistic. But if it's completely, like garbage, like what this episode was, I can be like, well, this doesn't make sense because of this, this, and this in George's Star Wars.
2007 before it was corrupted.
That book. Okay.
Come
all
on.
right. Okay.
Right, because it says that the Force is called
Okay.
magic in it. Right.
Can you give me read it?
All right.
a book.
Because yes,
All right, but
I know that book.
This is going to be a
I
long
know that
the
book.
stream.
sacred Jedi text. All right, Force witches. On the subject of Force witches, in the Old Republic era, countless primitive world boasted enclaves of Force users known as Force witches, who, as their name indicates, drew their power from the Force. Because their worlds typically had low levels of technology, Force witches were isolated from Republic space, and many generations of witches were unaware of the existence and formalized training of the Jedi and Sith. Therefore, most Force witches believed themselves to be unique in their special abilities and developed their own traditions. The most dangerous were those who drew their power chiefly from the dark side, and it goes on to talk about the Night Sisters of Dathomir.
Damn.
there you go.
So,
Stand
Wow.
corrected. It is a aspect of the Force. However, I would argue that the Jedi, it's just something completely different because they're using incantations and they're doing all this and that.
That's fine.
But this was 2007, so that
Yes.
means they must have wrote it in 2006, which was before the Clone Wars movie. So this
no,
is
no,
probably
I'm saying
before.
what I just read to you has been retconned by Filoni, and that's why I separate it and consider all this new stuff as magic being separate. That's Disney Star Wars to me. I realize that it's now legally canon, but I just don't recognize. For my own sanity, I have to separate between Star Wars and
Guys,
Disney Star Wars.
your
My
nerd talk
argument-
has literally killed my dog.
I'm
Like,
sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
My argument to this is 2007, the Clone Wars movie came out, and then Clone Wars came out in 2000, was it 8? Clone Wars show. So we didn't see the witches until something like 2010 or something like that. And that was George. So the way he described those witches was
Theory.
totally different.
Theory. Didn't George want Ahsoka to be killed, and then Filoni talked George out of it? My point
Yes.
is that just because George doesn't agree with something doesn't mean it didn't get overruled because
For the
Filoni got
record,
more clout.
George also tried to make Greedo shoot first, which is not canon.
George just messed with his
Listen,
own
we can
creation.
discuss whatever George would have done or might have done. Whatever happened is what happened. You can't tell me that
I'll
when
take
you
my
watch the
small
clone.
little victory. I'll take the force. There's magic is the force. That's all I care about. Please.
You can't. Sure, you can't tell me that the force that we see in the Clone Wars that the Jedi and Sith use is the same force that the witches use when they're doing incantations and potions and reviving the dead. I mean, if that's the case, then well,
I think it's a
no
perversion
problem.
of it.
No problem for Plagueis.
Well,
He could have just gone to the witches.
I don't know if this bridges the gap at all, but couldn't someone say without context, you can't tell me that the Emperor using lightning is the same as Yoda, using a force push? And it's like, well, they're not, but they are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Plo Koon also used lightning.
There is only the force. Trust only. There is only the force.
Well, yeah, like one's dark side powers, one's light side.
That's what, well, no, I'm
theorize
agreeing
that
with
like
both
the
of you. I'm
offensive
saying-
I
powers
know you
are
are. That's what I'm
dark
saying.
side powers.
It's all the same thing, just used differently with different methods developed by different cultures. As Luke himself says, the Jedi and the Sith are not the only. The Force is a river that you can drink of, and not just with the cup of Jedi training. Many people have a connection, personal connection with the Force, whatever you want to call it.
Theory.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you actually, because apparently George Lucas has made it clear that or through Lucasfilm that he doesn't want the original versions of the OT to be available anymore. He wants the remastered versions,
Right,
to be the definitive versions.
yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I love that.
What do you consider them to be superior?
Yep.
To the
Well, because
originals?
if the technology existed back then, or however he wants his story to be, as he's aged, he thinks this could be tweaked and that could be tweaked just like a piece of art, then that's what goes.
Well, I guess just taking it to like a slightly absurd conclusion, but like say George becomes completely senile and just says like,
Well,
yeah, I want to have like Iron Man show up in the middle of Star Wars, and I want Rey to just be there in the OT, things like that, and like that then gets worked.
I assume you draw the line there.
Well, yeah, would you then say,
yes.
well, no, George, your artistic vision is not in line with what I would see Star Wars as being back then?
Yes,
That is
I would say
interesting, though. Do you have,
he's compromised at that point.
Do you have a preference over the OGs versus the remastered, irrelevant of George's opinion?
That's tough. I grew up on the OGs, right? I grew up on Sebastian Shaw as Anakin. I grew up on, I remember, putting in the VHS before it was touched, and you're firing up Luke's saber when he's training with the droid. And it's literally like stop motion. Like he's there like with the hilt, and then you can see the frame completely gets reshot and changes, and there's like a little bit of motion, and it's you can see, right? They put the dowel in, and Roger Christian helped with that, and I love that feel of the original, where it's like just old, There's no suspension of disbelief, I feel like, and they do a really good job of that. It almost like throws you in even more, because like this is something that's not as flashy and clean as today. So in that sense, it like literally does make you feel like it's in a galaxy far, far away, like a different time. But then if I want to watch it, with a different lens, I kind of like the new. I don't know. It's really a tough answer. I don't know. Both are great.
Because I'm not probing you, thinking like I'm going to prove you wrong or anything.
No,
I don't think there is
yeah.
a right or wrong answer on
No,
this. I
there
think it's just a matter
preference.
of like perspective, I suppose.
I like
do you
the
like?
special editions, but I think Han shot first. I think Han shot first. You can both could be true.
I think if I was, if I had to paint with a broad brush on this one, and like whose artistic vision would I trust more? The George Lucas of the 70s and early 80s versus the George Lucas of the 90s and the 2000s. I'd probably take the George Lucas of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I think
It's,
him probably combined with like quite good directors and writers had a better and cleaner vision for what Star Wars should be.
Yeah.
It's almost
I can
staggering
see
how
that.
many people that applies to, by the way. It's like I'd do that for James Cameron, I'd do that for Ridley Scott, I'd probably do it for Spielberg.
Yeah.
This is I guess this is the thing that we don't like to acknowledge, but like directors, creatives, writers in Hollywood, they all have a best, but they all have an expiry date. And I think they all have a point where they peak in terms of their creative abilities, and they start to decline after that. And maybe, they might still have the legal rights to their products, and they can make all kinds of changes to them. Are they for the better? Not always. No.
Yeah.
Like Ridley Scott, he created Alien, he created Blade Runner. Fucking always going to respect him for stuff like that. But he also created like Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So, I look at his later stuff and think that man has passed his sell-by date as a creative.
Covenant the one where there's a whole bunch of them, they go on the planet and then there's like the little baby aliens run around. There's like a plant that that like spruces up.
So like some people might inhale the spores from it and get infected from it that way.
Probably should have worn suits.
Yeah.
And
so
that's essentially what created the alien.
Yeah.
Good trigger MauLer.
Yeah, that's shit. I didn't like that one at all.
Ask him about Interstellar.
I guess
now.
that's the example where it's
Alien-
like, I would cut off Ridley
Prometheus
Scott from, say, the Alien franchise after he did Alien and just say, like, your input is not required, sir. You've not added anything to this franchise. Please stop.
What about Gladiator 2?
That's what I'm worried about. 'Cause that's my
might be
favorite
good.
movie.
I love that movie.
I try
That's
to
my
be
favorite
open mind with this stuff. It's like, yeah, baby. But telling anybody Gladiator 2 is coming out, they're always just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what?
I think Russell Crowe had the perfect response to that because he keeps getting asked about it in interviews when he's promoting other movies, and he just says, "Why do people keep asking me about Gladiator 2? I'm not in it. I'm fucking dead. Stop talking to me about this."
Because
movie.
at one point it was gonna be him. It was gonna be Maximus in the afterlife, and that was and then it changed, and we forgot about it, and then it came back, and now it's the kid. Lucius.
It's so
Really?
past its
Yeah.
time. Like
It's him growing up.
Gladiator was amazing, great movie.
Kinda
like
cool.
if you were going to do any kind of sequel or prequel to it, maybe like within 5 years would have been the ideal time to do it.
See, look at
20
Theory's
years
face.
later,
Commodus,
no one cares.
Commodus in the afterlife too. Hey, what are you doing here?
It could be cool.
We have to work together, buddy cop.
It could be done right if he grows up and there's like some good, but what are the chances that anything is? That's
Well, so
the point.
That's what I'm
who's the?
saying.
Is it Lucius that they're focusing on now,
That's what I heard, unless that's wrong.
or did he have a child with
I think it's meant to be a son or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
We'll see, man. We'll see.
But
maybe
Yeah.
maybe
Funniest
it's
one
Lucius.
is the sequel to Twisters. That shit's funny. After all this time,
the Twisters are coming back for you. It's personal this time.
Twisters revenge.
I want
Powell,
them to take
so
the fight
hot.
to the Twisters. Like they're gonna have to create like an anti-Twister to like fight it or
Fuck
something.
yeah.
It goes the other way.
They're gonna
Yeah,
team up
yeah,
with
exactly.
a Twister.
It's an
They're gonna bring
Australian.
The big guy
Yeah.
just watching it going,
They're gonna-
let them fight.
They'll
Yeah.
capture a Twister and convince him to join their team, and then he's gonna fight with them at the end.
Yeah, dude.
It's like
One picks up
Endgame.
a house, the other one
Dun,
picks
dun,
up
dun.
like
The Twister
10
comes through.
cars.
The
The real
bad guy
Twisters are the
Twister.
friends we make along the way.
Yeah,
And then there's a Twister with the sharks in it, and then they all battle each other.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is getting dangerously close to Schlurpo.
And the Sharknado tosses a shark at one of the main characters, and the good guy Tornado goes like,
Yeah.
no, and jumps in the way and takes the hit and dies. He bleeds
Yeah.
out, but not
No, they
before he
stop
goes.
him. They stop
He
him like
imparts the
Kent.
key.
With
It's like,
the
you just
force,
gotta
I still
yeah.
want to know. I've always theorized what would happen if you say dropped a nuke on a Twister. Like, would that stop it, or would that just
I would assume
Make
yes,
it more
but that they've
angry.
never entertained doing that because of the damage. Like, this
My
movie-
question is, is the Twister more powerful or the Tasmanian Devil in the Twister form?
depends how angry the Tasmanian Devil gets? I think.
Or the Flash using Speed Force, twisting at top speed. Go
I
on.
don't
It's
know.
kind of
he-
like it's like the
he might
it's
just
like the
meet one of
witches
his
in-
fans and beat the shit out of them. or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Allegedly.
It's kind
Allegedly.
of like the witches in the Acolyte. Like if they scissor angrily enough and hard enough, I think they can just create force babies.
Yeah.
from
Or
that.
fire,
Like-
depending.
Potentially, yeah. That might have been what burned down
So,
the temple. We'll
to
never
go
know
back-
for sure.
To the Acolyte, do you
Violently
think that-
scissoring.
This is like the first. This is like where the Jedi get the prophecy from. Is this what they're trying to go for?
Oh, I sure
the
hope
chosen
not.
one
So this
prophecy.
is the thing.
Probably.
A lot of the information anyone had was about the first 4 episodes. So who knows what's in 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can,
the
can I
big
do a few more
revelation at
super
the end of the
chats
season.
since we're here?
Bro, it's your show. You,
Just say no.
We've-
Say
I
no.
don't want to
Whatever you
come into
say,
the
say no.
conversation. I don't want to be like some dictator going, bah, we must do the super chats now. But well, we've got a little bit of time
Maybe.
left, so I figured I would do a few.
Shut up.
TGV Monster says, "Hey Drinker, MauLer Theory, Chris and Badger. MauLer, in the showdown stream on EFAP, you forgot that Chris Redfield now has access to a giant satellite laser cannon at full arsenal that he used to kill Excella in Resident Evil 5. So
Oh,
there.
see, that's why we need a drinker for that part. See, you could have helped out. There's some gaps in our knowledge.
Resident Evil, man.
We that got so complicated with some characters, like Steve from Minecraft against Captain Price from Call of Duty. It was difficult to figure it out because we were like round 2. Steve immediately starts, digging. Captain Price can't get to him in time, and then what if he digs the floor out from under Price and he breaks his leg by falling into like a deep canyon? You got to consider these things.
What is Steve's full arsenal? Is it just like a really good pick for digging?
Well, sure, but he would be able to start crafting pretty quick, right? If he takes down some trees and and what's Price gonna? He's got to find him. He's got to find him before he gets out of control. That's what we concluded.
I thought Price would have probably taken it because he's like an SAS man, so he's like combat ready.
But the thing is, Steve can dig down and replace the floor above him. So then what's Price going to do?
Steve's just gonna keep digging until like Price can never get to him.
Price gets like technology that allows him to map the whole floor for tunnels, and it's just this enormous kingdom beneath him.
I think as well, you'd have to argue, like, are we in a world of like, Price's world where it's like relatively in step with reality, or is it Minecraft Steve's world where everything is like arranged as blocks that you can just dig through? So
hence why the stream was 12.5 hours.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to understand now.
We had to solve all of these problems for 192 characters.
Yeah. Well,
we would love it when it was like Zorro versus Mad Max. We'd be like, oh, thank God.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah.
Straightforward.
Well, isn't that like Mad Max with ammo, right? Because if he has ammo.
That was actually a discussion because of Road Warrior. It was like, does he spawn with ammo or not?
That's an important distinction. I would ask, which one do I get to play and do I have ammo?
Well, in Road Warrior as well, like he has some ammo that's spoiled, so
it's
like he'll
dud.
fire a shotgun and it just kind of fizzles.
Shout out.
Oh, damn.
That's a risk you take if you take that character. You either get 2 shots or only one of them.
That is true. Rossi gifted a critical drinker membership, so thank you. Ross, he also says theories on again. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's good to have him back.
Yes.
Ginger Rhino says, have you played the 2015 Mad Max video game? It's an open world where you and a hunchback build up a war rig and with the Arkham melee combat on foot.
It's good.
I played it, I think,
it's really good.
For a few hours when it came out, and I remember liking it. But it's had a resurgence because of Furiosa, I think. And
it's really good, and it gets better as you go on. And you unlock more car mods. Solid. Funny when you have a game that has good gameplay mechanics, carries you through. Yeah,
that's crazy.
There's 2 questions here. One from Kaylee and one from Mr. Taco Boutique, both basically saying, how stoked are you guys for Arcane?
I'm trying to keep myself on the lower end until we at least get a month out. Then I can start getting excited, okay? Because can't be getting excited for like a whole half year.
Is this like the end of it?
They had a little video attached to a tweet where they said season 2 is coming out, and that's going to be the end of the story, probably for the characters of people like Jace, Vi, Jinx, those ones, and possibly of Piltover. But they're going to be doing more seasons of other places. So Runeterra split into loads of regions. Everyone wants a series for Zorn and Noxus, Bilgewater, these places that have like really specific aesthetics and characters that everyone wants to see realized. So I think that's what they're doing. They're trying to say, which to be honest with you is not a surprise, that they would expand as soon as possible to as big a places as possible. I partially think that they are marketing this as the final season because it's just an opportunity to take that makes everyone go, ooh, shit, the final, oh my God, blah, blah. When in actuality, we're probably going to see some of the people from Arcane in other seasons of other things, political crossroads and different things happening in the world. Basically, all I'm saying is don't worry about it. A lot of people are like panicking, and it's like, don't worry. They're going to end the story probably, and then they're going to make more. Don't worry about it.
Theory, are you familiar with Arcane at all?
No. The only bit of familiarity I have with it was when we were going to make Vader Episode 2, we were looking at a lot of different projects to see what animation style are we going to do it in. Arcane was one that I really liked, but quite expensive.
If you ever get the chance, like, it's definitely worth your time to watch. I think you would pull a lot out of it in terms of storytelling, characters.
You
don't need to.
What's it about?
It's kind of set in this like I guess like a steampunk kind of totalitarian city state where like the the poor underclass are trying to rise up against the sort of rich
There's
oppressors.
an uneasy sort of peace that exists between the high end and the low
Yeah,
end.
like the uprising
Cool.
fails, and then they broker a bit of a peace deal. The narrative is kind of focused on two sisters, kind of like the Acolyte, actually. Interestingly enough, one takes a turn down the dark path. The other one is trying to be a good person, or at least a better person, but she's obliged to be quite morally grey at times as well. And they end up coming into contact with each other again after being separated for several years, and it results in a whole bunch of conflicts. There's quite a few characters orbiting around them who get caught up in this as well, and everyone is quite well developed. Like, they've all got a really good set of priorities. They all stay quite close to their what they hold dear as characters, and you end up with quite a few interesting conflicts as a result.
Cool. You know what? This kind of reminds me of when you have siblings that one goes light, one goes dark. Do you remember the Old Republic?
This is Arcane and Thexan.
Yeah.
That's when I was watching. I was like, oh, this sort of just got done. Arcane and
Gender
Thexan in
swapped
the
it.
Old Republic. Yeah, 100% gender. What theory? What would they gender swap something? That's ridiculous. Yeah, and race swapped. If you want to go that route too, yes, they did both because par for the course.
Yeah.
Mozislak says, MauLer, EFAP on Chris Chan or J-Sonic when? Get Gundam on to comment on the lore. I'll check your response later. Got to take a dump and finish work. Hail drinker.
I fully assure you, if we ever did Chris Chan coverage, Gundam would be the number one to get gassed. But the thing is, I'm just not that familiar with Chris Chan lore like I am with the Boogie lore. That's why we had a Boogie episode or two. I can't remember at this point. Or Hassan. I'm way more familiar with the gooberousness, so I can cover it. But like Chris Chan, I know so little. I just know the
I
highlights.
feel like Chris Chan, from what I know of him, would be just a really depressing EFAP episode. Oh god, this is someone with horrible mental
I'm
problems.
pretty sure the name of the Boogie one is delving into the depressing abyss of Boogie.
I was gonna say the Boogie one wasn't.
But the thing is, with Boogie, it's just his are self-inflicted. I think he's a functioning human being. He's just a fucking asshole, and just made a rod for his own back. Chris Chan, I think, has actually got real development issues, which is why he ended up where he is. That's, I guess, a slightly different situation. That's just my understanding of it, anyway. But either way, it's probably going to end up quite depressing and sad. But yeah, I like the fact that this guy paid $50 to tell us he was going to go take a dump. So good luck with that, man.
Peak Americanism. I love it. Do it.
Yeah, think of us when you're straining.
Badger, I really want you to read that Dark Horse comic. I think you'll get a kick out of it, man.
I'm down.
I think you'll like it. Yeah.
Come on, talk about it.
Pretty cool.
This is a question for the whole panel here. JK Fozel says, challenge time. Off the top of your head, come up with a good pitch for the Acolyte.
Oh,
I had a good pitch. Oh, for what it is or what it could be?
Yeah, so take the premise of it. So it's set 100 years before A New Hope. During the High Republic era, it's probably
bring up
the downfall of it and the rise of the Sith. How do you come up with a good story there?
I want my enforcer. He's happening. We're getting him right in. This is the legendary old-ass Jedi who doesn't take shit from anybody and gets this job done. Which, fine.
But what's his story going to be?
Let's open with a Jedi Master being killed. I'm fine with keeping that. I don't know about keeping the sisters. They're so cringe, both of them. I guess we could just rework them all. We could rework everybody. I'm cool with an investigation for the season. I'm cool with twists and turns, revelations. I'm cool with really carving out the world of the Jedi, getting a bit more information on the difference between your average Jedi. They're not all the same. It's not a monolith. They've got little tweaks and differences, and reassess and show us what the world looks like with the Council right now and how they influence the world. Get all this stuff they don't give a shit about world building in the Acolyte. Of course they don't. They barely get anything else right. So why would you imagine that? But yeah, not that that's much of a pitch. It's just I guess at this point I'm just saying, please make it good.
Yeah. I guess like if you were to give us like an hour to go away and write some notes up and stuff, we could probably come up.
But we did it with
like
chat.
I
did it with chat the other day. Shout out to the pre-F&T show we have on Nerd Wars channel, where we were like, well, how do we make this good? And we ended up with a serial killer hunting Jedi, and a Jedi, like a Basta Lashan type, and it naturally became a woman without us thinking about it, teaming up with like old school detective that's going to help the Jedi go into like the dark underworld, because Jedi can only go so undercover before they're like, they don't know, and so it was going to be like an old school gritty detective between this like Han Solo detective type, but gritty and stoic, and a female Jedi Basta that would they would meet in the middle, eventually hunting a serial killer. Now look how easy it was to just make something when you're not thinking about agenda every 3 seconds.
Well, I think what I would have done is I would have stayed away from Sith, because we got to keep those guys.
It should be Darth Tenebris and Plagueis.
Or if you're going to focus on them, you focus on the only few Sith that are around in the shadows. Yeah. And you essentially just pluck from the Plagueis book. But what I would have done is if we want to stray away from the Sith and all that, I would have had a different threat. So, bring in just some new alien race that you want to create. Kind of like the Yuzon Vong. Just make them a threat, right? Make them like extremely dangerous. And
like can't sense them in the Force type thing, and
the Force doesn't work on them.
That's cool.
They have their own version of the Force.
Been referenced in like Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that. Or is that just purely EU stuff?
They got referenced in like KOTOR when Canderous talks about seeing a Yuzan Vong ship, basically. But then I don't think they get referenced much.
Fuck, dude, you know what would be absolutely fucking badass if they bring back like a few stragglers of the Rakata.
Yeah, like that still had Force sensitivity. Like for people that don't know, the Rakata used to basically be the dominant species. They were Force sensitive, big, green. They owned everything.
They were
possibly,
bad.
if you paid attention, they took humans from Tatooine before glassing the planet and turning it into Tatooine. That's only if you talk to a sand person in their lore. But yeah, Rakata's badass.
Dude, yeah.
But then they lost the Force for some reason. Maybe for the whip. It's a whole thing. See, it's ripe for good storytelling.
Could have been sick, and then the Jedi would be like, who are they? The Sith haven't showed up for 1,000 years, which connects with episode 1. Okay, cool. Then, like, okay, we'll send out like 4 Jedi,
the
5
Rakatan
Jedi
Temple
to go to this unknown part of the galaxy, and they're supposed to investigate. And then they fucking like, I don't know, like maybe like 4 of them die, and one of them comes back and like, we don't know what happened. And then they just send out like a shit ton more, and Yoda's sitting there, and he's like, investigate, we will. Dude, it could have been fuck.
Yeah, I hope Yoda's still on sabbatical in the High Republic. The one High Republic book I read, he was on sabbatical. I don't know what that means. He just wasn't the Grandmaster and left. Yeah, let him stay on vacation.
He was clapping cheeks. He was clapping
Yaddle.
cheeks.
Yeah, you gotta make baby Grogu.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it takes a while. M8566 says, did you guys see that Disney has submitted Ahsoka for Emmys, including Outstanding Drama Series? Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay, well, I hope it does. And I like Hayden Christensen, and I that can only mean better stuff for his career. So
no, I do. That's why I wanted Hayden. I wanted those flashbacks in Kenobi and all those other ones. I just wanted good Hayden to get like acting meat to work with.
I mean, I will say, like, I told MauLer about this. Like, I got to meet him when I was at MegaCon in Orlando, and he was super nice. Like, just really accommodating, really generous with his time, and just like a really chill guy, like really down to earth. It was nice to see him there.
He's right there. He knows his shit. He's still young enough to be able to do all the moves.
He was on screen.
He's right there.
The lightsaber moves came right back. It was beautiful. And he gets so much flack because he did 20 different takes, and George picked the ones that were whiny and petulant. And now he gets blamed, even though George picked that acting decision. He gave stoic takes.
The story about how James Cameron wrote Alien and then a dollar sign at the end to signify, just make a sequel, Cold Aliens, going to make you a shit ton of money. The equivalent of that is like you set up the board meeting, they're all waiting in there, the Disney execs. Like, so what's your plan? You just open the door and in walks Hayden. You're like, this.
Like this. I like the idea as well of you and MauLer just being in the room, like pointing at him, going, "He's right there. He's right there."
You imagine like, Hayden, you want to do it, right? He's like, yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's in, guys. He's in.
Didn't
Pat on the back.
Ahsoka showed, like, he's like in his 40s now, but like he can run rings around like Rosario Dawson and stuff. Like, he can still do the lightsaber.
Still got all the
moves.
training. from
That
the
was him
Killer
holding
Man.
back. Like you could tell that was him going
Well,
at like the half speed that he could normally go at.
Oh
seen him
yeah,
do it
I
before.
showed Nick the choreography, and he had a lot to say. You know,
Once he
I'm
stopped
still
laughing.
waiting for. Remember when they said the Acolyte's going to have a fight scene that rivals the Phantom Menace?
That's why I asked Chris Gore if that's what was in the fourth, but I think it's gonna probably be what they peak it off with, right? The best thing ever.
It was mentioned earlier, of course, that they had Han, Luke, and Leia right there, and they did not use them. Until now, it is impossible to reunite them. So
Yeah.
thanks.
This is the relentless march of time. Sadly,
No,
you know?
they could still do it. They could do it in the
Well,
Mando movie or the.
No. I'm not
I
talking
bet-
about in timeline. I'm talking about Carrie's dead.
Oh well, yes.
Yeah, you can't get the actual physical
No.
actors there.
It would be
anymore.
her daughter with a superimposed face and, Skinwalker Luke, and it just wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, we would know it's not them. He also says all these people asking for a MauLer face reveal are ridiculous. Don't they understand that if he were to remove the mask and they were to gaze upon his face, they would go mad from trying to comprehend the long?
Yeah, I'm just sparing him. Keep him safe.
You are truly a source of madness for so many people. Avarith says, since the Jedi need to be evil and did bad, do you think the writers will make it that the Jedi mind-controlled May to start the fire and kill everyone?
I mentioned that earlier. It's a theory. We'll see. I don't know, man. Nothing's off the table.
I love how she's like, "You're not leaving. What are you gonna do? I'm leaving. I'll kill you."
But just let me go. I think she's damaged
Damn,
goods.
that escalated fast.
All right. Well,
I was just thinking about that scene from Event Horizon when Sam Neill's like, "You can't leave. She won't let you."
Every time you play the screaming one, it's like, yeah, that's what it feels like inside.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Guess I'm not leaving.
Marky Mark says, now that the Force lets lesbians have children, I want to see the Force allow two gay dudes to have a baby. Would the Force make a woman one of them? Where would the baby come out? Wow. You just have to force it. What can I say?
No pun intended.
You have to
The
thread
Force finds a way.
You have to thread it, yeah. Thread the needle.
Yeah. Thread the needle, yeah. Sir Lopez says, I'm pulling on this thread, but all it's doing is ruining my shirt. Also, fire burns in space, fire burns stone, and a franchise, and $180 million. Yeah, fire can destroy a lot of things.
They're so mad that we call that out. They're so mad. It's like when you do something, the more fantastical you're asking people to believe, the more the little things like fire with no oxygen source have to make sense. No, it's fine. Just let it be flapping in the wind.
Well, there's
Wind.
fire in space in all of George's movies too, but there's no
But not
suspension
like-
of disbelief.
Not the way they did
There's
it.
explosions in space,
Right.
but there's not fire.
Right.
Yeah, but there's no. You're not sitting there being like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's got to count for something that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people all went, what the fuck? When they didn't do it before. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, it happens all the time. It's like,
But-
no, it doesn't,
The
obviously.
thing I always
but
point out as well is
MauLer-
like, okay, you could take something like the world of Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's a world with magic and dragons and like rings of power and like evil sorcerers and all that stuff. But it's still a world that has gravity. It's still a world where people have to eat and drink and breathe oxygen in order to stay alive. There are rules. They might be slightly different from our rules, but there are still rules. That's it. There's a difference between realism and believability. And that's what this show
But
sacrifices.
The ship had a force field. Okay, a force.
That's
field
what
of
I was like,
oxygen.
but then she did the. And it's like, yeah, we could probably retcon it away, like with the reason, but man, they're making us work to do that. Like, why not just?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
If you have
things
to
that
do it
could-
in your head canon, then they failed as writers.
Yeah,
If you're watching a
that's the end of the day.
production and you're taking the story makes you so bored where you're taken out of it to literally in the world of Star Wars to contemplate if something is real or not, then you have a problem.
because I thought with Theory thought I was like, okay, there's a force field. I was like, but then why did they need oxygen? Because it was whatever. Yeah, so it's like you can fix one part, but then another bit of logic
Listen.
would break that part.
After episode 3, Badger, the fire is the least.
Yeah,
least
no,
of my
100%, bro.
concern.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I was funny when everyone was flipping out on the first two. I was like, oh, I think we should maybe reserve judgment for the real. And we
Fire
had,
wasn't
like,
even-
we don't know what happens
I
after
don't
the
even
fourth one.
care about the fire.
I wasn't even high on
comment
the
on
list in the
fire.
first episode. Like, it is on the list, but, like...
I didn't notice it, actually. I had to go back because I was thinking about noticing other things. I was like, oh, yeah, that was just a free-flowing, like a campfire.
I'll never get over the arcing shots in Last Jedi, though. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's
funny.
just gravity in space now. Like, they just behave like artillery shells. Sure,
And what
okay.
they'll say to you, Drinker, is I guess you didn't know that a lot of the warfare in Star Wars is based on World War warfare that involves a lot of weaponry that is actually like that. So you're not an appreciator of Star Wars. You're just a phony.
Okay, well,
To
that
that I
one,
would say,
I
get
can
that weak shit out of here.
I can argue that one thing in the Last Jedi when she opens the all the missiles, all the
They're
bombs,
magnetic.
right? No, I think that was still in the gravitational whatever field of the ship. So when it dropped,
Drinker's talking about the arcing shots from the Star
So
Destroyers.
yeah, so when the supremacy is pursuing the rebel fleet, and it's like they're kind of bombarding them from long range and just picking away at their shields, like the shots arc as if there's gravity underneath them.
They're like energy blasts that arc.
Oh, I don't even remember this.
They have a
space.
trajectory, and it's like in space there is no trajectory because there's no gravity. Like,
It's a
they should
homing
just go in
beacon.
a straight line forever.
It's like if the fucking lasers from the blasters just went boom and fell on the floor. You'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Even though obviously that's within actual
Like Herschel from Family Guy when he lights the lightsaber.
We're gonna see that when Vanestra Rowe comes out with her lightsaber whip.
Yeah, the whip is on the way.
Yeah. Which
lightsaber whip. AG says, can this panel create its own streaming service and compete against Disney? At least your content will be good. Cheers. Yeah, sure, we could do that. Let's
just do it.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. RRTNZ says, in a deleted scene of episode 3, Chuck Norris went to the witch's ceremony and left with a sandwich, his shirt ironed, and Mother Anissa got pregnant just by looking at him. Should have stuck with that. I would pay to watch that, to be fair. Moses says, Drinker, it was a clean pinch. I know you were concerned. Also, no one cared until MauLer put on the mask. Gotta go. That's pretty good. I like that. Kev Watts, welcome to the Fellowship of the Drink. You've joined up as a new member, so thank you, man. He also says, hail all, my favorite movie theater chain, Alamo Drafthouse, was about to close several locations until Sony bought them. Food and drink is brought to your seat, classic movies and new releases. The cinema isn't dead yet, hopefully. I mean, I wonder if that's going to be the way things are done. Like, like it just becomes not a luxury experience, but something that's a bit more like bespoke, I suppose, where you're going there, you get drinks brought to your seat, you get food or whatever, and you watch older movies or you watch showings of newer stuff. I don't know. It just feels like cinemas as they've existed in recent years seem to be on the decline.
Right.
I've
Maybe
noticed
it needs to change its format.
Because even if they were really good, that still wouldn't change the fact that we all have 4K televisions. They do digital releases almost instantly.
Yeah.
The Coof showed us all that we can get a great experience without having someone talking next. So it has to be, like for me, it had to be Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. It's going to have something I really care about or almost am like certain is going to be good to go deal with all the things you have to deal with.
Right.
Canada Plus says, hail panel, has anyone seen Smiling Friends Season 2? Also, Star Wars is a bit like Palpatine. Both die and both come back just to die again.
Smiling Friends Season 2 is awesome. Fully recommend if you enjoyed Season 1. For those who don't know what it is, wacky Adult Swim show. Animated series that's insane. I showed Drinker episode 1 recently. What would you say about it?
Just from the episode that I saw, I would echo your thoughts. It's wacky. It's very like off the wall humor, quite surreal at times, but very funny. If you go into it with the right mindset, it probably helps if you're stoned and or drunk. You'll have a blast with it.
Hell yeah.
With most things, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not your like boring generic mainstream comedy. So I appreciated that. I'll do a couple more and then finish up. Grego Cassay joined up for the Fellowship of the Drink. So welcome aboard, sir. Blue Collar Loser, I know you, says, a great show instead of suffering the Acolyte. Mayor of Kingstown is back. Jeremy Renner has the biggest comeback story in Hollywood and the show absolutely rules. So, yeah, I know very little about Mayor of Kingstown, but I do support Jeremy Renner. Hopefully.
Here it's good. Same guy that does Yellowstone and all that. Taylor Sheridan does it. I believe.
Yeah, he's really carving out a little empire, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's got all of the Yellowstone stuff. He had the 1886, 1926.
1883, 1920,
Yeah,
which they got me addicted. And now I like that more than Yellowstone because he really cares. Like if you listen to him on Rogan, he really cares about actually. He did the Bass Reeves about the first black marshal. Really good, really good. Turns out there's a ton of really good representation in history that you can just adapt with respect, and there it is.
Well, then you get the completely off base stuff like the Sylvester Stallone one where he's in
Tulsa King. That's good too. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
one.
that's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
He's good at writing dialogue. You know, he picks good actors for those roles. Yeah, he's doing good stuff. I like it.
What's his name?
Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah,
Taylor Sheridan. Okay.
Yeah, he's got like a whole kind of cinema universe, I suppose, to himself. Deval says, what films or series have the panel seen that you thought were awful, but the soundtrack and score was, in your opinion, amazing? So, yeah, like really good soundtracks, crap movies. Damn, that's an interesting one.
Kind of. Probably is actually reliable to just look at all the destroyed franchises because they've managed to maintain some of their composers.
Like even the sequel trilogy, I can't remember one. And I love John Williams. I just chalk it up to like, well, you didn't really give him anything. I don't remember one real beat from that or one real theme.
I think Ray's theme is actually pretty good.
See, I can't picture. I'm sure if I heard it, I'd be like, oh, right. Yeah, but I can't remember it. As a yeah, see, it's Duel of the Fates, Battle of Heroes, like the Vader themes. Mandalorian is the only one I think I could think of that I remember that really hooked me.
That's Ludwig Göransson or whatever. What's his name?
I think I would remember Con Air had an amazing theme to it. Like pretty.
How dare you? Con Air is great.
Movie. Yeah, but like it's got loads of guitar solos and stuff in it. It's like proper 90s action movies.
Hair flowing majestically, constantly. Yeah.
Put the bunny back in the box.
John Malkovich, one of his better. I mean, well, what's he bad in? But yeah.
Yeah.
So fun.
But I remember the soundtrack just being fucking badass in that. He also says, do you believe that a film can alleviate itself from an objectively bad film to average with a good score? So, like, yeah, can the musical score elevate a movie?
Yeah.
I believe like any aspect of a movie can help to elevate it. Like, say you could have a pretty crap script, but say you've got amazing actors who are just giving it 100%.
Do you like Tron Legacy? Because that's like one of the best movie soundtracks I think I've ever heard. But I know some people think it's a bad movie, but they like the soundtrack. I like all of it personally.
I love the movie. I love the soundtrack. I listen to that soundtrack every day.
Me too.
There's at least one song that
you can see it listening. Like it's so. And then it's the first 3D movie I saw. I was like, oh, I understand 3D now. When he goes into the grid and it pops into 3D for the first time.
Oh shit! I didn't see that in 3D.
Oh yeah, I saw it. It was the first 3D where it was 2D until he goes into the grid and then it popped. I was like, oh, this is dope. And it wasn't distracting. Like it was the first movie that wasn't distracting with 3D.
I think Avatar was the first 3D. Well, unless we're talking like 3D. Remember in the 90s when a movie was 3D and it was just those paper glasses with the red and the blue.
Yes. Oh Christ, that's
you get a stigmatism or something by the time you're done.
I have a stigmatism.
Yeah. I'll be right back. By the way, I assume we got enough time that I can be back. I'll be like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna sort of wrap.
Or like last time I went for a pee break and I came back and y'all were gone.
Yeah, we just left. But yeah, I think this is the interesting thing about movies, right? Where the things that you can objectively measure, like the logic and the consistency of the storytelling, the writing, that sort of thing. That is definitely a major aspect of it, but like there are things that are less tangible, like your perception of the performances, the soundtrack, the direction. That's a little bit more subjective, but like that can definitely elevate what would otherwise have been a mediocre movie. So yeah, I agree. Like it's an overall experience, I think, and like it's not entirely dependent just on the writing, but in an ideal world, that would be really good as well.
Yeah.
I just think, you'd ideally want to get all of that stuff working in harmony to make a truly great film. But
I agree.
Can't always get it, I suppose.
And ideally, they would all inspire the other, like quality, and they maybe score 2 watching it, and like.
Yeah, and, we're all aware of what goes into making a film, and like how many people have to come together, like with the correct mindset, getting the right talent, like working together on this thing, making them all understand what you want.
I just think of all those videos of John Williams and George and them talking and seeing it, and and John telling George what he thinks, and the back and forth. And it's like, man, I want that again.
Yeah. And you see a guy like John Williams, like, are we going to get more guys like him? It just feels like that's a once in a generation composer that comes along, and like, damn, that's hard to replicate.
You can't really replicate it. You can find similar, but
yeah, like Jonathan Soul has done some beautiful music that's like in that vein, but yeah, it's never going to be.
It'll never be John.
I guess
John.
Yeah. The bigger sort of like, I guess this is becoming like a bit of an existential question, but like, Star Wars is something which dates back to the 1970s. It's getting close to being 50 years old, like half a century of this thing. Does there come a point where you just say, like, that franchise has run its course, it's time to move on to something new? We need to start creating new things that, like, we need our generation's Star Wars. Are we going to get that? Like, is there conditions that allow that to happen?
I think we do need our generation of Star Wars, but I think when you have something as special as what it was, I
don't think Rebel Moon is going to be our generation Star Wars.
No. I think you just do it right, man.
I know.
You just keep going. You just keep going. You can continue it. It's just, I mean, case in point is look at the amount of people that are just so pissed off at what they're doing now, and like it's all it is. It's just it's a call to wanting the real thing. It just means people want the real product. That's all.
Yeah.
So give them that.
It is hard, because
not really.
We say that, but like we live in a culture where we are recycling things from previous generations. Culturally, in terms of the arts, entertainment, like so many of the things that we have now were created in the 80s, the 90s.
True.
Whether it's kids shows, whether it's like franchises, we're just rehashing old stuff. And you think like at a certain point, it's going to get mined out. Like we're just going to hit creative bedrock with this stuff, and we need to start creating new things. And
do you think we're there? Where someone made something new, we would all just draw parallels to all the shit that we already watched. Like, he just took this from this, because this is like it's a multiplayer game where all the good names are taken. Like all the good ideas have sort of been done before in one way or another.
It does become that argument of like, oh my God, has everything been done already? Has every possible story permutation already been done? Are we
it's
just
that same hero archetype?
No, I would say it just bolsters it. And like, look at The Boys, for example, superheroes, but they're taking a different spin on it. It's like someone making, a burger shop, but they're putting a different, I don't know, sauce.
It's sort of like Watchmen, and they've been other things of like, let's be subversive to.
What was Brightburn? I thought that was pretty clever.
James Gunn, who said he never wanted to do a Superman, and he did that, and here we are.
They should have made a sequel.
But then you could probably argue that's just taking an existing trope or an existing archetype and then doing the inverse of it.
But people are
like, it's fine. Like you've then created something unique, but then again, it's not really coming from anything new. It's subverting an existing thing.
Yes. And I think that's probably, get someone that combines a whole bunch of fandoms like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and all this and that, and create something new.
Yeah, George got accused of this, even though he's very open. George just ripped off Flash Gordon and samurai movies. It's like, they were inspirations.
Okay, cool. Well,
inspirations always. Yeah.
Right. Well, he combined, let's say, two things and created something unique, and it's loved more than either of those things, really. So, someone can just take Star Wars now, which is an amalgamation of a couple other things, and take
not Zack Snyder,
Lord of the Rings, and and The Matrix, and just make something totally fucking cool and new.
Like where they go around to try and protect a farm planet, and they gather a bunch of companions.
Yeah. And have like slow-mo everywhere.
He gave me emotional damage from watching both of those.
I didn't see
the director's cut.
I honestly got more entertainment from Clarkson's Farm than I did from
really good show. I started watching it because of Gary talking about it all the time. It's like, wow, the politics of British farmland is very interesting.
It is surprisingly addictive. It really is. But anyway, on that bombshell, I'm probably going to finish up for the day. But guys, I want to say, Badger Theory, thanks for coming on for this tonight.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Always
Appreciate
fun.
it.
Always a pleasure.
There's a link to Theory's lightsaber store. So if you're in the market for a top quality, like
And I am.
prop level lightsaber, then please go there. You can get yourselves one. And there's a link to Angry Badger's YouTube channel as well. A new channel just starting out. Please give him a subscribe and a follow, because I think we can get him up to 10K relatively easily.
I appreciate it. Yeah, when you first had me on, I was at 1,400 subs, and everyone's like, "Why are you having him on?" And thank you. Almost at 5,000. It's a slow journey, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's give him a boost because he honestly produces really good content.
How dare you have small subscriber
I know,
channels
how
here?
dare you.
How dare you? It's not
I
like
know.
they're people or anything, or it's not
Yes.
Yeah, well, this is I always try to get a balance with Open Bar. Like we've got like mega channels like you, they've got like 3.5 million subs, and then we've got channels that are just starting out and they're like at the beginning of their journey. And like I like to give people a
Inspired by all
chance.
of you. Gary radicalized me, said start the channel, did it, and here we are.
Well, each and every one of us started at 0.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yeah. But it's been awesome, guys. Thank you. Thanks for everyone that's joined us tonight. We had 24,000 people watching us live tonight, so we've smashed our previous record. So
crazy.
It's not because we're interesting. It just shows how much everyone fucking hates the Acolyte.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm heartened to see this many people speaking out in one voice.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's
is
great.
this? Yeah, it's great.
Hey,
It means
maybe
we're
next
not
week
insane.
26,000, right?
Well, it's our
Please.
100th open bar. It's our anniversary.
shit.
It's our centenary.
Oh
so
shit!
Hyper
we'll see what
time.
we could. Yeah, we'll see what we can manage for that one. But for everyone that joined us, thank you. For my mods that have been keeping the peace in chat, thank you for the awesome work you always do. And all the super chats that come in. Obviously, we couldn't do them all tonight, but MauLer and I will pick up with those over
Absolutely.
the weekend, as we always do. But for now, at least, that's all we've got for today. So the power of many compels you.
Power of many.
Power of